We got
Recording.
Okay,
Here comes Jamie. Going to admit everybody here.
let's see, who else we got? Rich Wallace. Scott Edmonds, sorry. Okay, ready? We good, Aaron?
Yes, sir.
We on record?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Will the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021, please come to order. This evening's meeting will be a virtual planning and zoning meeting via the Zoom platform. Our procedures will be as follows. 1, when you first enter the meeting, you will be in a virtual waiting room until the meeting host admits you. Aaron Mannix and I will serve as co-hosts for this meeting. 2, please be aware that your camera, if you have one, and your microphone will be muted by the meeting hosts when you enter the meeting. You can turn on your camera at any time so you can be seen by others when and if you wish and choose to do so. In order to run an efficient and orderly meeting in this virtual environment, unless stated otherwise by the meeting chairman during the meeting host will keep everyone other than the commission members muted. You will still be able to hear everything said by the commission members, even if you are muted and or your camera is not on. There will be the opportunity for public comment during public hearings, at which time public participants will be unmuted. 3, the secretary will read the call of the meeting as published according to Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7B. During the public hearing, the applicant will be invited to present the application, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested. The meeting host will share all related documents on the screen as needed. In addition, all applications and supporting materials for each application on the agenda are available through the public meeting calendar page of the town website, www.ci.guilford.ct.us, and also through a direct link on the planning and zoning page. 5, comments of town agencies will be read for each applicant. If there are any, there will be clarifying questions from commissioners. 6, there will then be the opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. Please raise your hand through the Zoom platform and wait to be called on and unmuted. After questions, we will solicit comments from the public. First, those who wish to support the application may come forward, and second, those who oppose the application will then come forward. As this is a public hearing and must be recorded, it is necessary for speakers to identify themselves each time they speak by stating their name and address. The applicant will then have the opportunity to address any concerns or comments raised by the public or the commissioners. Once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearings and regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each applicant. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this commission and has the right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. 9, decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Department at 203-453-8039 or emailing planning.zoning@ci.guilford.ct.us after 9 a.m. All actions tonight taken by the commission will be on a roll call vote. All commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. Seated this evening are the following members. I would ask you to wave your hand and identify yourself. Bill Freeman. Sean Cosgrove.
Hello.
Frank DeAndrea. Is he muted?
hi.
Good, thank you, Frank. Jamie Stein.
Hello.
Richard Wallace.
Good evening.
Scott Edmond.
Hello.
And I'm Phil Johnson. This town staff present this evening are Aaron Mannix, our zoning enforcement officer, and Lisa Piombino. The secretary will now read the legal notice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on June 2nd, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting will be conducted through a web and phone meeting only. Attendees are advised to not go to the regular community center location because a physical meeting will not take place. See below sign-in information to Zoom meeting. The following applications will be heard. Ron DeGenario, 43 Wilmer Lane, map 131, lot 25, zone R8, special permit per section 273-19 for accessory apartment. Ron DeGenario Development, petition for regular amendment to Article XXV 3 mixed use / open space zone, section 273-222A, to allow housing designed and intended to be of a community nature, including detached, cluster, or attached single-family units. Peter Haley, 73 Charlie Road, map 8, lot 5, zone R2, coastal site plan to construct a 10-foot by 11-foot sunroom on existing deck. Gregory and Cheryl Badico, 51 Waterside Drive, map 8, lot 57, zone R2, special permit request per section 273-15G, addition to house on a lot less than 10,000 square feet with coastal site plan request. Peruse Montemedina, 81 Summer Street, map 33, lot 40-D3, zone R6, coastal site plan application to replace and expand rear deck. William Nye and Molly McAdoo, 312 No River Street, map 46, lot 58-3, zone R1, special permit request for section 273-37 to allow for 10% additional coverage in an R1 zone for a screened area. Eunice Demond, 311 Old Whitfield Street, map 3, lot 23, zone R3, special permit request per section 273-16A, table 4, line 16, to allow non-profit philanthropic wildlife rescue and rehabilitation use. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the Planning and Zoning Office and on the town's website, www.ci.guilford.ct.us. At this hearing, persons may attend by either phone or web connection and shall be heard. Pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order 7B, any materials relevant to matters on the agenda, including but not limited to materials related to specific applications, if applicable, shall be submitted to the agency a minimum of 24 hours prior and posted to the agency's website for public inspection prior to, during, and after the meeting, and any exhibits to be submitted by members of the public shall, to the extent feasible, be submitted to the agency a minimum of 24 hours prior to the meeting and posted to the agency's website for public inspection prior to, during, and after the meeting. All written correspondence shall be submitted to planning.zoning@ci.guilford.ct.us. Documents are available at the Planning and Zoning Office, dial 203-453-8039 for assistance. In accordance with the Governor's Executive Order 7I, this legal notice is being published on the Town of Guilford website, www.ci.guilford.ct.us. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 20th day of May, 2021. Phil Johnson, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Quick correction. Alan Brown is also the commissioner and is seated tonight, and Bill Freeman will be an alternate this evening. Would someone like to make a motion to open?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank DeAndrea,
Aye.
Jamie Stein.
Aye, Chairman.
Thank you. Richard Wallace,
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Muted.
Alan, where are you, buddy? Can you unmute, Alan? Hold on. I got you. Give me a thumbs up. There you go. Thanks, Alan. I will also vote to open. The first item on our agenda is Gregory and Cheryl Badico. I believe that's, sorry if I butchered that. 51 Waterside Drive, map 8, lot 57, zone R2. Special permit request per section 273-15G, addition to house on a lot less than 10,000 square feet with coastal site plan request. Is someone here to speak and present for Gregory and Cheryl, or they hear themselves? Are you on
You can just
iPad?
unmute.
Gotcha. There we go. Oh,
Got it.
Do it again.
Try again.
There you go.
there we go.
Okay, all right,
Welcome.
I think we're here.
I'm sorry.
What you're doing.
Good. Tell us about what you want to do and help us find a way to.
We have the front of the house has two skylights that have been leaking for 2 years now. And it's gotten really bad. So I got to rip the skylights out on the second floor. And I want to put a dormer on the top of the second floor. I'll remove the skylights to replace them by a dormer, but match the same roof height that's on the building now.
I'm happy to share your plans as well here.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right, thank you.
Commission can see the area first. This is the lot in question here, which is less than 10,000 square feet in area, which is the reason for the special permit request. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's this front portion of the house
Yes,
where you're looking to dormer. I do
Yes.
have, this is also a coastal application because the addition is within 100 feet of a critical coastal resource, as you can see here. I will get your architectural drawings here for you as well to share. These are the two skylights that Gregory had mentioned in this area, and this is the proposed dormer addition in the front of the house that they're referring to. So this is not an expansion of the footprint, it's more of, it's a vertical expansion.
Aaron, quick
Yes.
question. Are we in a flood zone here? And is the flood zone ordinance come into play?
Let me see what your flood zone is here, pardon me.
Kevin's got a letter on that.
Yeah, there's a letter from Kevin McGee.
Great. Where's Kevin? Yeah. Why don't I tackle that letter quickly, just so we can get that out of the way. From our town planner, Kevin McGee, Coastal Area Management Review, Gregory and Cheryl Badecko, 51 Waterside Drive, Guilford, Connecticut, 06437. Assessors map 8, lot 57. The applicant is proposing to create a second floor dormer addition on an existing single-family residence. The proposed work is located in a FEMA zone AE EL 11. The coastal resource policies applicable for the property are coastal hazard area, beach and dunes, coastal waters, internal flats, shellfish concentration areas. The proposed work will have no adverse impacts on the coastal resources. In order to make sure the coastal resources are protected, I recommend the following conditions of approval. The site should be inspected to make sure that all construction debris has been properly disposed of in a covered dumpster. That appears to be the only one. So that didn't really, other than the fact that it's stated, do we know?
I do have some comments I can share with you, although I don't have any formal reports from the health department. I did receive a copy of plan reviews, technical reviews from the sanitarian with respect to the addition. And for 51 Waterside, there's a B100A application that's needed for the health department. The application for this building addition meets the requirements for B100A. The proposed addition does not reduce the potential repair area and does not increase the number of bedrooms. No code complying area exists without an exception to house or property lines. Addition cannot go beyond the existing building footprint, and there can be no increase in bedrooms. Soil testing is on file from the original system in 1973. There's 30 feet of 48-inch galleries. So the addition seems consistent with the sanitarian's assessment that it's not going to be going beyond the original footprint of the house.
And do we have any concerns on significant improvement?
I do not believe so from the floodplain manager. But that would be something that she would address prior to a building permit, the issuance of a building permit, based on the cost analysis. I do have one referral, a letter from CT Deep analyst Jamie Sidoriak, if you'd like to just submit that for the record as well.
Okay, Jamie, you want to grab this one?
Sure, yeah, no problem. Dated June 2nd, 2021, Planning and Zoning Commission, Town of Guilford, Planning and Zoning Department, care of Lisa Piombino, Administrative Assistant, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut, 06437. Regarding Connecticut DEEP Coastal Site Plan Review, 51 Waterside Drive, Gregory and Cheryl Badiko, applicant. Dear Commission members, thank you for referring the above referenced coastal site plan review received by the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, the Department, on April 21st, 2021. We have reviewed the application materials for its consistency with the standards and policies of the Connecticut Coastal Management Act, Connecticut General Statutes, Section 22A-90 through 22A-112 inclusive. Based on this review, the department offers the following comments for the Commission's consideration. Proposal description. The subject site is a small waterfront property and hosts a single-family residence with decks and gravel parking area. The site features a pre-1970 boulder and concrete seawall with recessed steps located along the site's northern property boundary and a stone groin located along the southern property line. The proposal is to remove an area of the existing residence comprising skylights and replace it with a new second-story dormer area and new roof surface. Coastal resources. Coastal resources at the site are significant and include coastal flood hazard areas. According to the FEMA Online Flood Map Service Center, the existing single-family residence lies entirely within FEMA designated Special Flood Hazard Area Zone AE, elevation 11 feet. State permits. Because the boulder and concrete seawall was constructed at the site prior to 1970, it is eligible for retention and maintenance under the Simplified Certificate of Permission process. Pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 22A-363B, should the applicant need to perform maintenance to the boulder and seawall in the future, they can contact me at this office for more information on properly authorizing work in advance of commencement of any regulated activities to be performed at and below the coastal jurisdiction line. Enclosed for reference is an informational brochure and guidance document for coastal property owners and prospective coastal property buyers on permitting structures located in DEEP's regulatory jurisdictional area. Conclusion. Pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 22A-110, we request that these comments be read into the record at a public hearing for this application. We hope that these comments are helpful to the Commission. These comments do not necessarily reflect other local planning, zoning, or ZBA variance considerations that may apply. For reference, an overview on Connecticut's coastal management program is enclosed. Should you have questions on this letter or any other coastal management matter, please contact me. Best regards, Jamie Sidoriak, Environmental Analyst 2.
Thank you. So Greg and Cheryl, do you know why I brought up the issue of the flood zone?
Not really.
Okay, so if you technically, because you're in a flood zone, if you spend more than 50% of the value of the building,
All right.
just the building, you have to bring the whole structure into compliance with flood zone regulations.
Yeah. I think Aaron explained that to me in the beginning, but the addition that what we're putting on is nowhere near what that's going to be anyway.
Okay, well, the appraised value on the town's tax assessor database is $78,000. So if you're to spend 35, you're getting close.
Yeah, it's close. I provided a sheet with the actual cost, what it's going to cost me. I'm doing the work myself.
Okay, I just I just didn't want to have you going down a road, get in trouble, and then
Right, right.
like
I understand.
nobody ever mentioned it to me.
Yeah,
So,
no, they
good.
did. Thank you.
I'm glad you're aware of it.
Yes.
Let me close that. We'll go back to where we were. What else do we have on this one? Let's see. We have the survey, architectural drawings, memo from the town engineer, letter from Deep.
I think it's
Are
just
there-
questions at this point, Phil.
Great. Any questions from commissioners with respect to this application? I see a lot of silence, a lot of head shaking. We're good. As you may know, we are required to hold 2 public hearings for a special permit. But that can be waived by a supermajority of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm comfortable with waiving it and acting on this tonight. Any comments or questions from commissioners with respect to waiving it?
I'm for let's just take the vote,
Got it?
make the motion now and
Excuse me, Phil, we just make sure there isn't anybody from the public
Right.
here.
I just was gonna, just before public comment, I was
Yeah.
looking to see if we could waive the second public hearing. So Richard, would you like to make a motion on that?
was there any public comment or questions?
No, we'll go to that after the waiving of the second.
I'll make a motion to waive the second public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
Great. Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Jamie Stein,
Yes.
Richard Wallace,
Yes,
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Yes.
I'll also vote to waive it, so we'll act on this tonight. Are there any questions from the public with respect to this application and what is being sought? Obviously, we had architectural drawings and they're replacing 2 skylights and dormering a roof. Pretty straightforward. This is a special permit only because of the size of the lot. And then the CAM is a coastal area management, just to make sure that the coastal resources are protected. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak in favor or against this application? Jamie or Aaron, I can't see, we have 87 people in our Zoom. And I think I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so I only have 30 in front of me. So I don't
I
know.
don't see anyone unmuting or raising their hands to speak on this application.
Okay.
I just went through all of our 5 pages of
Hi.
guests here.
That's okay. I figured you were. I don't either.
Good. Without any, do we have any additional information we need to enter on this one, Aaron? Or are we good?
But no, we have all of our staff reports.
Great.
entered.
In that case, someone like to make a motion to close that one? Or do we just wait and we'll do them all at once?
We should close this one.
I'll
Okay,
motion to close.
second,
okay. Sean Cosgrove,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Jamie Stein,
Yes.
Richard Wallace,
yes,
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Yes.
And all those, yes, we'll act on this a little later this evening. Hopefully it won't be too late. Next applicant is Peter Halley, 73 Trolley Road, map 8, lot 5, zone R2, coastal site plan to construct a 10 by 11 sunroom on existing deck. Is Mr. Halley here?
Yes, I'm here. Can
Very
you hear
good.
me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Peter.
Okay.
Peter, I can share your map here and your drawings if you'd like to give the commission a little description of what your project is.
Well, we have an existing deck on the back of the house and facing the marsh. And we decided we'd like to enclose a small part of it and be able to enjoy the view in the winter. So that is basically the idea.
Okay. This is before you for a coastal site plan application, as this falls within 100 feet of a coastal resource, the tidal marsh. I do have a basic drawing here, pardon me, as I scroll through our septic plan. So, plan view here where you can see the existing deck area,
Mhm.
and here's the 10 by 11 and a half foot new sunroom.
I think we're done anyway, right? I think so.
Are there any questions from commissioners? I mean, again, because it's just a CAM, we just want to make sure that the coastal resources are being adequately protected. So I suspect there's a memo from the environmental planner, as there is. And
Yes, there is.
Richard, do you want to grab that one?
Sure, sir. Dated June 1st, 2021 to the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission from Kevin McGee, Environmental Planner. Reason Coastal Area Management Review, Peter Halley, 73 Trolley Road, Guilford, Connecticut, Assessors Map 8, Lot 5. The applicant is proposing to construct a sunroom on an existing deck. The proposed work is located in a FEMA AE/EL 10 zone. The coastal resource policies applicable to the property are coastal hazard area and tidal wetlands. The proposed work should have no adverse impacts to the coastal resources. In order to make sure that the coastal resources are protected, I recommend that the following conditions of approval, or the following condition: the site should be inspected daily to make sure that all construction debris has been properly disposed of in a covered dumpster.
Very good. Mr. Halley, are you okay with those conditions?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hey, Aaron, this is considered impervious, like the same amount of impervious, it's no change. My question is there going to be gutters on this, and is it gutters going to be directed to a certain?
Well, we were planning on installing gutters in the, well, as I'm looking at the drawing, and if you look towards the marsh and then to the left, but you know, there was runoff from the deck anyway, so it would sort of be running in the same direction. I want to mention there would be no plumbing, and the heating system would be below the floor electric.
So the roof leaders, Peter, will be discharging at the, or within a distance of what, 5 feet of the building or so?
Yes, it won't bleed away from the building.
Okay, and the existing house has gutters as well as leaders?
Yes, they don't lead away from the building more than 5 feet either.
Okay, okay. So they'll just sheet flow.
Okay.
There's a letter of support that we received from Richard Petrillo.
Oh, that's nice.
Alan, you want to grab this one? I'll put it up. Is that up? Yeah.
Yes.
It's pretty small, but I'll read it. I have, I live at 65 Charlie Road, and I am diligent. I'm an adjacent neighborhood to Peter Halley, who is a hearing on the 2nd. We have no objection and support to his plans of construction with a sunroom on the existing deck at 73 Trolley Road. Regards, Richard and Ellen Petrillo.
Thank you.
I do have some health department comments, if I could incorporate those into the record, from sanitarian Shirley Mickens. B100A application is needed for the health department with a site plan showing how far the septic system is from the sunroom. Soil testing is on file. The sunroom is more than 10 feet from the leaching system, and this sunroom will not reduce the potential repair area of the septic system. So it meets.
So we're good with the health department. Okay. Any comments or questions from commissioners? Any comments or questions from the public? Again, if you would like to make a comment, because we're in that Zoom format and I can only see 30 people at once, please speak up and we'll do our best to have your comments heard.
I don't see anyone.
Yep.
So
Would someone like to make a motion to close?
I'll make a motion to close.
Second.
Okay, Sean Cosgrove,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Amy Stein,
Yes,
Richard Wallace,
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Yes.
I'll vote yes. We will act on this later. Thank you, Mr. Halley.
Oh, I just want to thank Erin. She walked us through this. Thank you
Great.
very much for your help.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Good night.
It's
Bye-bye.
always nice to have a shepherd. It's great.
Yeah, it really was a big help. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Right.
Thanks.
Puez, Mota Medina, 81 Summer Street, map 33, lot 40-D3, zone R6, coastal site plan application to replace and expand rear deck. Is someone here to speak for? Hi, welcome.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.
So let's. pull
I
up.
can, I'll share your site plan if you'd like to give a basic overview of what your project is to the commission.
Sure. We currently have a small deck on the back of our home, and it's the small dotted square. And that is the favorable view on the back of our home with the sunsets, and we're hoping to expand it to have a place to put a seating area. And the new deck will be 14 feet out and 20 feet wide along the house. And that's the plan. It'll be the same material. I believe it's called Azek. It won't be covered. Nothing special on it, just a flat deck.
Okay. You can see the critical coastal resource here. This is a coastal site plan application. These are tidal wetlands, the flags here.
Got it.
This is sort of an interior lot off of Summer Street here, surrounded by tidal wetlands.
Terrific. We have a memo from our planner, Kevin McGee. Frank, you want to grab that one?
Sure.
Hold on, there you go.
Dated June 1st, 2001. From Kevin McGee, the environmental planner. The applicant is proposing to construct a new 20 by 14 foot deck. The proposed work is located in a FEMA zone AE elevation 10. The coastal resource policies applicable for the property are coastal hazard area and tidal wetlands. The proposed work should have no adverse impacts to the coastal resources. In order to make sure that the coastal resources are protected, I recommend the following conditions of approval. 1, the site should be inspected daily to make sure that the construction debris has been properly disposed of in a covered dumpster.
That's it?
That's all I could see. Am I missing anything?
No, that's it.
That's it. All right. We should just make a copy of that memo because it seems to be pretty common. Are there any questions from commissioners?
I have one comment from the Health Department review, technical review of the deck. 81 Summer Street needs a B100A application. This application for a deck meets the requirements for B100A. The proposed deck will not reduce the repair area for the septic system. Engineered plan dated June 26, 2003 by Eric Anderson includes soil testing and reserve area. So
we're good.
additional information will need to be submitted.
So what is a B100A? What that just certifies the septic, Aaron?
It's a health department review that is triggered by certain types of land use applications, essentially where they need to verify compliant reserve and repair areas for the septic system.
Okay. If you guys have questions on that, obviously communicate with Erin and she can help you through that process as well as the health department, correct?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
All right. Any comments or questions from the public? With no comments or either in favor or against, would someone like to make a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Good. Alan Brown.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Scott Edmund.
Yes.
Richard Wallace.
Yes.
Amy Stein.
yes.
Frank DeAndrea.
Yes.
And Sean Cosgrove.
Yes.
We will act on this evening. Hopefully not in too long. Next application is for Ron DeGenero. No,
William Nye
sorry.
and Molly McAdoo.
William Nye, well, skip that. William Nye and Molly McAdow, 312 North River Street, map 46, lot 58-3, zone R1. Special permit request per section 273-37 to allow for 10% additional coverage in R1 zone for a screened area. Mr. Nye and or Ms. McAdow, are you here or someone here to present for you?
Yes, we're here.
Terrific. Let me see if we can pull up some materials and you can explain to us what you're looking
Sure.
for.
I'll share your your site plan for now, William, and you can give a brief overview of what it is that you're looking for here.
Great.
Good evening. We have 2 little kids and they spend a lot of time playing in the yard to the side of our house, but we don't have any access to that yard area from within our house. There's one window that is blocked by the garage or the angle of the garage, so we can't see into where the kids are playing when we're inside the house. So the main objective of having a little porch here is to have an area where we can more easily access the side yard, be able to see the kids and be aware of their presence more easily and enjoy that side of our house.
So, Aaron, we're seeing this because
In the R1 zone, they do, you could apply by or permit by special permit an additional 10% of lot coverage of the area, and that is what the applicant is seeking, is an increase in the lot coverage to 17% as opposed to 15%. And correct me if I'm wrong, this is your area here of your screen porch? that you're
It's actually a
proposing?
shaded area. Yeah. So the
The
plan
this entire shaded area.
and the plans were just, if we were to add up to, 17%. So the shaded area is, kind of the min max of the addition that we would, or, the screened in area that we would be adding.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any questions from commissioners with respect to this application?
Aaron, I assume that this is fine with setbacks and everything from what I
Yes,
see on that
the
plan.
zoning setbacks do comply. It's the lot coverage. There was one question I had. This sunroom, this is a 3-season room that you're proposing. That was a question that came up with the health department, and I will.
Yep. Yeah, we got a call last night and we helped clarify. It will be on sonotubes and it's 5 feet setback from the TP galleys.
Okay.
Do we have any comments from health department, Aaron?
Yes, the comment was that this application, as it's an addition, is also subject to B100A application for the 3-season sunroom. The sunroom is proposed 7 feet from the septic system and meets the requirements for 19-13-B100A.
Got it. Thank you. Do we want to share the plans that are drawn up?
Sure.
Here,
I
got
have
that.
those right here.
Oh, I just beat you.
Oh, you.
No, sorry.
Now
Here's-
I'm getting confused.
I know, they're a little sideways, but if I'm looking at this right, it looks like this is the porch area.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Right. I'm just, again, the porch there, and it would be also here.
Hey, Phil, this is Jamie. Just a question for the applicant.
Yes.
Can you just clarify for me, these plans are the gray shaded area and not this additional 4 feet, or?
Yeah, it's the gray shaded area. These current plans are just the min, so essentially it would be the gray shaded area.
And so that's your intention, just the gray area? Yeah, thank you.
Let's see. Are there any questions from the public with respect to this application? Would anyone like to speak in favor or against this application? Again, because of the number of people here, If you would like to speak, speak up, all right? Would
I
any of
don't
the
see
commission,
anyone, Phil.
yep, are any of the commissioners comfortable with waiving the second public hearing for the special permit?
So moved.
I'm comfortable. Second.
Thank you. Sean Cosgrove,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Jamie Stein,
Yes.
Richard Wallace,
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Yes.
I am also comfortable with that. We'll waive the second public hearing and we'll act on this tonight. Make a motion to close.
So moved.
William Nye,
Second.
thanks. Sean Cosgrove,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Jamie Stein,
Yes.
Richard Wallace. Richard Wallace,
Muted.
Muted.
Did it again.
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Yes.
I will also vote to close. Next item on our agenda, Ron DeGennaro, 43 Wimler Lane, map 131, lot 25, zone R8, special permit per 273-19 for accessory apartment. We love accessory apartments. Mr. DeGennaro here to present what he's looking to do.
I think Todd.
Good
Hi,
evening.
Todd.
Todd Anderson from Anderson Engineering Surveying Associates. I'm here on behalf of Ron DeGennaro, who hopes to build an accessory apartment for, I believe it's his father or father-in-law, I'm not sure which one, who's aging and still wants to live on his own. So he wants to live close to his children, but in his own separate apartment. So they are proposing to build a 768 square foot accessory apartment. I gave the town, and you should have what the unit is going to look like. It kind of looks like a big shed, basically. And you'll see on one end it looks like there's a garage door. I'm not sure. I think Ron has hopes that in later years he may use it as a shed for himself, and not an accessory apartment. So that's why the garage door is there, I believe. But pretty much a country barn kind of look to it. And you know, this is Ron's personal house, so he is an owner occupant of the house once it is finally finished in construction. It's under construction right now, but he and his wife are going to be living in the main house, and then the elderly parent in the accessory apartment. The apartment has its own septic system. Not shown on my site plan is the third parking space. I wish I had thought about that ahead of time. I would have added that into my site plan, but obviously there will be a driveway leading up to this structure and plenty of parking for all. So if you have any questions, I'm open to any of them.
Do I see any type of a utility room? How is it going to be heated?
Excuse me?
How is it going to be heated?
I am not sure. I don't have the details of the heating of it. I don't know whether it's going to be one of the split units or not. I don't have information on that.
Okay.
Aaron, can you bring up the site plan again?
Sure. This is an interior lot, so this is really a portion of the lot. This is the current house under construction and the long access drive here coming in. And as Todd indicated, there will be another access to the barn structure, the apartment.
And the barn structure is the rectangle that this.
That's this structure.
Yes, right where Aaron's pointing out there.
Mm-hmm.
This seems like a pretty big lot, Aaron, so impervious shouldn't be an issue, right?
The lot
Are you doing leaders on this, Todd?
Excuse me?
Are you doing roof leaders or are you?
It's going to be sheet fed to the ground. Yeah, and the lot is actually, no, I think there are roof leaders, and I show, if you zoom in a little bit, I think I have shown on there a roof drain that leads over to the house under construction. And then that goes out to the roof leader system in the backyard of the main house.
I think this is a roof
Yeah,
leader
that's it.
here.
That's it right there. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Sorry,
there's
my eyes
a
aren't that
large
good.
stone pit. There's a large stone pit behind the main house that is going to feed into.
Yeah, it's actually right there. Okay.
Great. Any questions from commissioners? Does this meet the criteria in terms of all the check boxes for accessory apartment, Aaron?
Correct, it does.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners with respect to this application? Okay, are there any questions from the public with respect to this special permit application? Would anyone like to speak in favor? I know it sounded a little repetitive, but I got one of those things. Would anyone like to speak in favor or against this application? I'm comfortable with proceeding forward on this special permit by waiving the second public meeting on this. Would someone like to make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Sean Cosgrove,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Jamie Stein,
Yes.
Richard Wallace,
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Yes.
I will also vote. We will act on this item in a little bit.
Thank you very much.
Don't go very far. Next one, Ron DeGennaro Development. Petition for regulation amendment to Article XXV 111 mixed use / open space zone, Section 273-222A, to allow housing designated and intended to be of a community nature, including detached cluster or attached single-family units. Is someone here to present this application?
I am, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. My name, for the record, my name is Kevin Kersaden on behalf of Ron DeGennaro. My office is at 3 Lafayette Street in Milford. I'm here presenting this zone text amendment. Mr. DeGennaro is bringing this application in conjunction with a purchase or potential purchase of a property located on State Street, which is located in this zone. And the intention, the bottom line of the reg change or text amendment is to also allow, in addition to all the other uses that are currently allowed, conventional housing. So it's essentially removing the over 55 restriction. Someone could still, if this reg change is passed, someone could still build over 55, but the intention of the regulation is to remove that restriction so that conventional housing can be constructed. And the reason for that is there's a lot of different reasons, primarily market driven. If the chairman and the commission remembers from probably years ago, and I'm not sure the exact date that this application was enacted. I mean, this regulation was enacted about, I think, 2015 or 2016. I was before this commission for a property north of I-95. It was at a MU, I think, C2 zone. It was a very similar application requesting to remove the over 55 restriction, and the commission granted it then. Historically, I think commissions have been, the original over 55 was a balancing attempt by the commissions to balance the cost of raising school-age children and the cost of education. There's declining educational enrollment in the school system. I don't think that is as much of a concern anymore. Ages, people are staying younger longer, and the over 55 market is actually really absorbed in the conventional market. The one thing I would like to point out is that what is still marketable is, you have those communities that are over 55, assisted living, and then memory care. That's not what this application does, but that would be something that would have an over 55 component that would be considered marketable. But in this case, the overall intention, and I know it's not the subject of this hearing, But I also know that people are curious, what are the potential side effects, or second and third unintended, second and third order unintended effects of what happens if we make this regulation change. This would affect just 3 parcels. I believe they're all adjacent off of State Street. I believe Ms. Mannix has the map if she'd like to share where this would affect in Guilford. But the intention of Mr. DeGennaro is to build, I think, about 25 homes on this lot. So that's the area there that she's outlining for you, the green area. Mr. DeGennaro has a contract to purchase one of the parcels, not all 3. So we have included in the application our reasons for it. I can go through those if you'd like. I don't want to take too much of the commission's time either, but the intention is to build modern, efficient housing in the price range of about $400,000 on a private road that won't increase maintenance, repair and service costs for the town, housing for future generations of young professionals, anticipating raising a family that's not currently available in Guilford, and also over 55 individuals that may be downsizing from a larger home and want to stay in the neighborhood. So there's a myriad of uses that are allowed in this zone. Residential being one of them. This is just another aspect of residential use, and it's in conformance with the comprehensive plan of development for a couple of different reasons. One of them being this zone already allows residential. The second being that the zone calls for, the plan of conservation and development calls for interconnecting roadways or potentially interconnecting roadways between Route 77, Route 1 and State Street. By changing this regulation, that potentially sets the foundation for something like that to take effect in the future. What happens with the other parcels that are also located in the zone. So pending your questions, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, that's all we're here for tonight. We would have to come back in for a special permit application where all of a lot of the substance of the development would be addressed at that point in time.
Aaron, do we require 2 meetings for a zone change amendment?
We do require continuation of the public hearing, yes.
Okay. So we won't be able to act on this one tonight, but a quick question. You say that he has a contract for one of the parcels.
Yes.
Have the property owners from the other 2 parcels commented?
No, not to my knowledge. The unique thing about a zone text change is that it's limited to the zone. So there hasn't been a direct conversation about what, with anybody about what's potentially going to be there or the zone text change itself. I mean, it was properly noticed and notice of it filed with the town clerk.
I mean, I can't imagine they'd object because it's making it less restrictive.
Correct. I agree with you. Yeah.
I mean, we're enhancing their property. So
yeah, it's just adding one more use. It's not eliminating any uses.
Very good. Yes, Richard.
I know this might be putting the cart before the horse, but how many in the conceptual stage, Kevin, how many units are there?
I believe we have, Ms. Mannix may have, we have a conceptual plan. I believe it's 25 as shown. It's not an extensive use. It's 25 detached homes shown conceptually.
Yeah, it's plus on a third of that whole parcel.
Right.
Your third of the his third of the parcel.
Right.
Right. That concept plan, Kevin, was not submitted as part of this application. I know we did discuss this on a staff level. We had a preliminary discussion with town staff.
Yeah, I think it might be attached.
That concept plan, but
yeah,
I apologize. I don't have that here.
I think it may be, it's part of George Crawl's comments. he had submitted, I think, some preliminary comments. I'm not sure if the commission has all those. But
No, not with respect to a potential development.
okay,
He did not provide a staff memo as far as the text amendment.
right.
We do have a memorandum from our town clerk, which I'll read into the record quickly, from Anna Dwyer, Town Clerk, Planning and Zoning Commission, April 27th, 2021, subject proposed zoning regulation, text amendment to Article XXV 111, mixed use / open space zone, section 273-222A, to allow housing that is designated and intended to be of a community pattern. This may include detached cluster or attached single-family units. In accordance with CGS 8-3, the attached petition for text amendment to the Town of Guilford is being filed with the Town of Guilford Town Clerk's Office for public inspection. The public hearing was set for May 19th, but it's now June 2nd at the Planning and Zoning Commission's regular meeting at 7:30 via Zoom. There's a join and an access code. Attached or proposed language for section 273-22A permitted uses. And this application is on file with the town clerk and is on our website if anyone is so inclined to review it.
I do have the MUOS zone text available to share if the commission has any questions regarding this particular zone. It is sort of a unique district that was specifically created for that State Street area, as Kevin had indicated.
Yeah, hi, Erin. This is Jamie. I just have two clarifying questions. One is, I just want to get it right. So this zone only exists in these 3 parcels. It's nowhere else in the town.
Are they 3 parcels? That's correct. It is only this. There are more than 3 parcels here. I think it really is 5. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's 5. Yes, and there are properties that are split between the Fonicellos, the Andersons, and I think that's it, the Fonicello family and the Andersons.
Okay.
One of which you did see an application for processing that does include one of these
Right.
parcels.
Right.
They're all limited, it's essentially limited frontage behind existing R1 district houses.
Okay.
It's designed to permit low intensity commercial uses and high quality residential uses integrated with the neighboring properties.
Okay, thanks. And then my second question is really just around, currently the dwelling units seem to be specifically for those 55 and older. We're not, are we, does that condition exist in other zones? What I'm trying to say is, are we reducing the amount of spaces with this action where housing is solely for 55 and older? I don't know if I'm asking that correctly.
You may recall, and I think Kevin mentioned this, he did one application before the commission where that condition was lifted. Another, which I'm not sure, I don't believe you're referring to this one, example is Guilford Village West, which had originally an over 55 component in which the applicant came back and had that, requested that text change to lift that requirement. As Kevin indicated, that the over 55 will still remain as an allowed use in the zone. This would be essentially incorporating conventional housing without any age restrictions as well.
Thank you.
So,
Sure.
Aaron, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask, would this be added as another number in the list? I'm looking at the zoning
The
permitted
actual
uses.
text,
Or would
yeah,
it be changing number 1?
the
I don't know if
text
you want to bring it up so you
proposal,
can see it.
it's changing 1A for dwelling units. I'll share this here with you. So this is the proposed regulation, letter A. Number 1 is dwelling units. And then they would be proposing this letter B, dwelling units, housing that is designed and intended to be of community pattern. This may include detached cluster or attached single-family units.
Is town staff and everyone happy with the wording of all this? Need to be reviewed.
Yeah, I did not have any specific recommendations for rewording the language, and nor did I hear any from George as well. As we kind of indicated, all of the uses in this zone are permitted by special permit. So there are any development in this area will be subject to special permit with you.
Sure.
And the conditions that are I guess the quality of development is of most concern in this area, I think. And the standards where the interior road connections and that sense of community housing, I think it is the goal for the area. And that would, I think, be of most importance down the road.
Okay. And then my last question is, it mentions trying to protect significant wetlands. Can you bring up the map and show
Sure.
what wetlands are being protected?
There are. Now, so just to let you know, this wetland map, sorry, hold on one second here. To bring that into the foreground here. So this area, oh, excuse me, oh, jeepers. This is kind of, this is our soils mapping for wetlands. It's not site specific. Inland wetland delineation would have to occur on the property. Essentially this area in the back, this is definitely, there's wetlands back in this area. I've walked the site. But there is a storm drainage for the town, road drainage that comes in here, where I believe we may find some inland wetlands, and the possibility of a crossing in this area, I think, would have to be explored. But there is a good amount of upland area, and the rear of the development would be wetlands.
Okay. Thank you.
Kevin, are you good with this?
Yeah, I think so, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Aaron, we need to continue this. What date will we continue this to?
I would recommend your April 7th meeting.
July 7th.
April 7th.
April.
That's fine. Kevin, you okay with
I must
April
have read
7th?
something with April. July 7th, excuse me.
It'd be our first meeting in July on the 7th of July.
I apologize.
Okay.
Our second meetings of the month, we're hoping to dedicate to some draft zoning text amendment discussions. So we'll try to keep business on the first meetings.
If anyone has any comments or questions, we will continue. Would someone like to make a motion to continue this to our July 7th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Sean Cosgrove,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Amy Stein,
Yes.
Richard Wallace,
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Yes.
We will see you on July 7th, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to change our normal procedures in respect to, we will hear units demand, but I am going to move us toward deliberation of the applications that we've received, so as to allow those people to exit the meeting if they so choose. So do we have a motion on Gregory and Cheryl Badetko?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman.
If you would be kind enough to read it.
Sure will. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit and coastal site plan application for Gregory and Cheryl Badetko, 51 Waterside Drive, map 8, lot 57, for an addition to a house on a less than 10,000 square foot, as shown on zoning location survey property of Gregory and Cheryl A. Badico, dated January 22nd, 2020, revised December 11th, 2020 by Waldo Associates LLC. Preliminary drawings, proposed dormer addition, Badico residence, dated 6/11/2020 by Plans Ahead LLC. This application is approved with the following condition that's stated by Kevin McGee. And the application is approved based on a finding that it conforms with the zoning code and is consistent with the coastal management policies of the state of Connecticut. The special permit is effective on June 11th, 2021, and upon filing with the town clerk.
Good. Your second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, any concerns, comments, questions? I think as long as we discuss the cost invested, just to make sure you don't get foul of the flood zone ordinance, I think you're in good shape, but that one's on you, so just be careful, okay? We have a motion second. Anyone have any problems? We ready to vote? Good. Alan Brown,
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Richard Wallace,
Yes.
Jamie Stein,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Tom Cosgrove.
Aye.
And I will also vote yes. Enjoy your project. Have fun. Take care. Next item, do we have a motion for Peter Halley?
We do.
If you could read that, please. Could you read that, Sean?
Sure. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a coastal site plan application for Peter Halley, 73 Trolley Road, map 8, lot 5, for a sunroom on an existing deck as shown on an application dated 4/29/2021. The application is approved with the following conditions. Were there any conditions that we discussed?
Kevin McGee's had some, I would think.
Yes, he had one condition.
Covered dumpster inspection of site.
His, the site should be inspected daily to make sure that all construction debris has been properly disposed of in a covered dumpster.
Yep, the application is approved based on a finding that it conforms with the zoning code and is consistent with the coastal management policy of the state of Connecticut.
Thank you. Great. Discussions, concerns? Good. Nothing. I'll call the vote. Sean Cosgrove,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Jamie Stein,
Yes.
Richard Wallace,
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Yes.
I shall also vote yes. Enjoy the project. Perez Moda Medina, 81 Summer Street. Do we have a motion on that?
Yes, we do.
If you could grab it, that would be.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a coastal site plan application to replace and expand a rear deck for Perez Monte Medina, 81 Summer Street, map 33, lot 40-D3, as shown on an application dated 5/14/21. The application is approved with the following conditions, those being Kevin McGee's construction concerns. The application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code and is consistent with coastal management policies of the state of Connecticut.
Second.
Great. I'll just add that the site should, did you put in a condition, the site should be inspected daily to make sure that all construction debris has been properly disposed of in a covered dumpster?
You did.
Sorry, thanks. Just want to make sure. So we have a motion and a second. Any comments, any concerns from commissioners? Nope. Silence. I'll call the vote then. Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank DeAndrea,
Aye.
Jamie Stein,
Yes.
Richard Wallace,
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Yes.
I shall also vote to approve that one. Great. On William Nye and Molly McAdow.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit for William and Molly McAdow, 312 North River Street, map 46, lot 58-3, to allow for 10% additional coverage in an R1 zone for a screened area as shown on an application dated 4/26/21. I don't believe there was conditions on this one, Aaron.
No.
This application is approved based on the finding that it conforms with the zoning code. Special permit is effective on June 11, 2021, and upon filing with the town clerk.
Great.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments, concerns, or questions? Good. I'll call the vote. Alan Brown,
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Richard Wallace,
Yes.
Amy Stein,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Affirmative.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I shall also vote yes to approve their porch. Ron DeGenero, the special permit for the accessory apartment. Is there a motion for that?
Got it.
Thank you.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit for Ron DeGenero at 43 Wimler Lane, map 131, lot 25, for an accessory apartment as shown on zoning location survey and site plan, lot 21 Northern Heights, dated December 10th, 2019, revised 2/23/21 by Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates, plus DeGenero in-law by Craig A. La Liberty, architect. The application is approved. Did Kevin cite anything on this one?
No, there weren't.
We're not going to hang any conditions on this. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code. The special permit is effective June 11, 2021, and upon filing with the town clerk.
Great. Comments or concerns? Call the vote. Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Amy Stein,
Yes.
Richard Wallace,
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Yes.
I shall also vote yes. Good. All right then.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Okay,
Thanks, Todd.
Todd.
Um,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
could we just take a couple of minute recess before we go into?
Sure. Why don't we set a 3-minute break and we'll start at 8:45 sharp, if that's okay.
Fine by me.
All right.
Sounds good.
Let's go here.
right, who we got? Let's see. Frank's not here yet. Scott's not back yet. Sean is. Amy, soon to be back.
We're back.
Still waiting on Scott and Jamie. Once we do that, we'll be good to go.
Got 100 people in the queue.
Yeah. I'm sure they're all just here to see what happened with those CAM applications.
There's a lot of curiosity out there about what planning and zoning does.
Well, they get to potentially see us in person on July 7th,
Oh, is that right? Oh, okay, great.
potentially.
Yeah, the emergency order extends through June 30th.
Okay, then. You got everyone back? Scott's back, Frank's back, Jamie's back.
Yeah,
Sean-
let's go.
How about, where's Alan? Is Alan back?
No, not yet.
All right, we'll give Alan another minute and then we'll.
I would just want to give all of our guests, since we do have such a large number of attendees at our meeting, to please remain muted until you're called on, so that we can maintain some semblance of order.
That is the goal. Alan, are you back? Oh. Well, we do have a quorum, so we could, well, hello. There you go, Alan, come on in. There you go, bud.
Here he is.
Okay. So we are going back and reopening the public hearings. This is for Eunice Demond, 311 Old Whitfield Street, map 3, lot 23, zone R3, special permit request per section 273-16A, table 4, line 16, to allow nonprofit philanthropic wildlife rescue and rehabilitation use. Is someone here to present on behalf of Eunice Demond?
Yes, I am. Attorney Thomas Crosby. I'm ready when you are.
Please proceed. If you could state your name and address for the record, that would be terrific.
Yep. Go ahead, Aaron.
Excuse me for just one moment, Tom. I just wanted to note that Commissioner Bill Freeman is recusing himself from this application.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Good,
go ahead.
thank you. I'm Attorney Thomas Crosby. As I mentioned, I'm probably the closest person to the town hall right now. I'm at 23 Boston Street, and I represent Eunice Demond. She operates, as you may have already gathered from our application, the Little Rascals Rescue and Rehabilitation. Eunice is asking tonight for you to approve her special permit application. The special permit application is pursuant to, as you've already recited, 273-16A, Table 4, line 16, which allows the facilities of philanthropic institutions not conducted as business or for profit by special permit in residential zones. I will mention a couple of sort of set the table facts. First, 311 Old Whitfield Street is a 0.42 acre site, and the adjoining acreage is 0.16 acres. They're both owned by Phil and Eunice Demond. There's a couple of, I've introduced a couple of exhibits before we got started tonight, which I'd sent over to the town, and they were some quitclaim deeds that showed that indeed that Eunice and her husband owned both properties. There was some, I guess the assessor's records are a little funky or wonky. They do seem to say that a Ken Demond owned an interest. That's been corrected twice by quitclaim deeds in 2002 and 2006. The only reason I go into all this detail is that we are also claiming the benefit of an accessory use associated with 311 Old Whitfield. And I want to mention that I today, just to do it for the third time, because 3 times is the magic time. I filed on June 2nd, 2021, yet a third quitclaim deed that clearly places the ownership in both Eunice's name and her husband's name, Philip Damon. And those 2 properties combined, as might have been mentioned, I believe, by Erin Mannix, your zoning enforcement officer, in her staff comments, which she submitted on June 1, 2021. There is a provision in your regulations that talk about 2 or more adjoining lots of record, 273-15C. If they meet the, combined meet the frontage requirements and so forth, there is essentially a merger provision in your regulations. So I guess I want to just be clear in case that, I don't think that'll come up, but for our purposes, we are a 0.58 acre site, and we're applying for the application for a special permit under the philanthropic provision. I'll also mention at the outset that the wildlife rescue and rehabilitation use at that location, and I mentioned 273-38 because it does allow animal shelters. There's some, I know the opposition submitted a letter. Attorney Shansky talked about the regulations in general and some purpose. I guess there were some sections in the beginning of the very zoning regulations, but there is a provision in your regulations for animal shelters in residential zones as accessory uses, and that's 273-38. But just one more sort of like point of order or clarification of our qualification as a philanthropic organization. I submitted, although late today, and I apologize for the lateness of it, a DP rescue letter that includes a 501c3 IRS tax exemption. So to the extent that our Facebook GoFundMe wasn't sufficient evidence, and I know your regulations don't really have like a checklist, like, you got to prove this with, these 5 documents. It doesn't really say that, although philanthropic is defined in your regs in 273-2. But basically it's, for purposes and programs for a nonprofit organization or association. So Eunice operates Little Rascals Rescue and Rehab as a part of DP Rescue. And that's why I gave you, which is now Exhibit T in your documents, the exemption letter, the 501c3 letter, and the, the letter which, I guess the cover letter from Donna Page, who's DP Rescue, talks about Eunice being an active member of this overarching nonprofit wildlife rescue organization, which she's an active board member, and she's also, I think, the acting or standing secretary. So I think our philanthropic status is established. The standards under 273-80 are really a question of whether you would like to approve the app, or whether you agree or will approve the application for use for which the special permit is requested. I want to say at the outset, this whole situation kind of arose, in the context of a cease and desist order. We're not making our claims that we are continuing our use, that we're continuing our structures, which, again, it's sort of excuse the legality of it, but I guess I should say it because that's what I'm doing for a living. 8-13A of the general statutes talks about continuation of non-conforming buildings and structures, talks about them being in place for more than 3 years without the institution of an enforcement, and also talks about use of land which has been established and continued in reasonable reliance on the actions of the municipality. So what we have here is a situation where this particular wildlife rescue or this particular rehabilitation operation has been in existence since 2012. I did submit some, I guess I want to call them photo shots of a page, I guess Exhibit O. If you look at Exhibit O, there's a 9 years ago, May 24, 2012, a picture of a raccoon, one tired little girl. The only reason I'm highlighting that is that combined with the fact that we've really been in the, let's say, I guess I could call it in the purview of the state DEEP and the health department for the town of Guilford since at least 2012, 2015, I believe, is Eunice's first contact with the state, in particular, Lori Fortin, whose letter is also part of our presentation tonight. Ms. Fortin's letter I have as Exhibit K. I hope these are exhibits that you guys can look at when you get a chance, but there's a May 5, 2021 letter, and that letter recites that Ms. Fortin, who's the state of Connecticut wildlife biologist, she works for DEEP, DEEP. She came out to the facility or come out to the site again. She's been coming out since 2015. She came out on April 9th and came and, inspected the area, the operation, and so forth, and did that with your town sanitarian. So in any event, I wanted to say that despite the fact that we were in the crosshairs of a cease and desist order, which I believe was initiated by the adjoining neighbor, who's the commission member who's recused himself tonight, we are pursuing the site plan, or rather the special permit approval, because we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to look at the entire operation, see if it meets your concerns and the regulations, and particularly whether or not that operation is appropriate as an accessory use for this residential area. I will say that the regulations in 27380 talk about the location being in harmony with the character of the zone. It talks about, is there fire protection, so forth. And I think we meet all those regulations. And I don't know if we could bring it up, but we've got the basic assessor's map, which might be Exhibit Q, I guess. It does show that we are bounded on the south by Metro North. So we're kind of in an insular area. We're northeast by the old Whitfield Street, and we're southwest by Whitfield Street. And then our neighbor, 301 Old Whitfield, which is, I guess, now owned by the Freeman's LLC called Celebration Development. William Freeman and his wife or partner, Alicia Dulce, formed this Celebration Development. And I believe I introduced the quitclaim deed that shows that transfer in 2018 or 2019. I think they bought it in September of 2018. Excuse me? I'm sorry, did somebody say something?
I'm sorry, that's someone from the public. I muted them. Excuse me.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, yeah. So I didn't know if I was being asked a question by a commission member, so I was trying to be polite. So, the DeMonds have been living there since the 1890s. This house has been in their family. This operation, as I said, started in approximately 2012. The people who are, I guess, the primary opponents bought their house in 2018 and then built a structure, and then I guess, are now, in obvious opposition. I guess I sort of analogize that to, like, you buy a house, near the airport, and then you complain about the planes flying overhead. That does happen. But I think that we actually selected the site based on what Lori Fortin told us where to put this particular area. These pins, as you know, or the area that we've described, are really a smaller area. I think there's a 17 by 17 foot, raccoon pen. There's a 12 by 16 foot raccoon pen, and then there's a 4 by 6 area. So we're talking about something under about 500 square feet. There's no animals there now. In light of the cease and desist order, we've not had an animal there. But we are seeking approval of the continuation of this operation because of the need and because of the I guess, Little Rascals, dedicated purpose. If you look at Ms. DeMond's credentials, you'll see that she's a Connecticut certified wildlife rehabilitator. She's been licensed since 2012. That's Exhibit O. As Ms. Fortin mentions, Eunice has completed all the day training courses, 40 hours of apprenticeship. She's partnered with a local veterinarian. She has a rabies vector species training. She has the RVS, she's an RVS rehabilitator. As I said, the structures in terms of their size and the pens are regulated by the state DEP. They tell you how big they have to be, and there's a limit on the number of animals that can be there. As I said, as Ms. Fortin mentions in her letter, she has over the years had this, monitored the success of this and monitored the improvement of this facility. She's removed the debris. There have been old cages that have been removed. She's erected fences. She's improved the cleaning protocols. There is this little 4x6 shed that stores the animal food, which is contained in special containers. There's a limit on the number of raccoons and possums. There's a green screen on the property. I think you'll note in some of the opposition, they show in one photo, you can see there's no screen. Next time you see there is. So there has been improvements, but not in terms of expansion. This has been endorsed by Lori Fortin as one of the best facilities in the state. And of course, the purpose of this is to care for orphaned and injured wildlife. This provides the town of Guilford and the area a unique service. As Ms. Fortin notes, or perhaps it was her or someone else in one of the supportive letters, the state gets 2,000 calls a month from people saying that they have animals that need help. And they rely on this network of volunteers across the state, of which Eunice is one of 15 that cares for raccoons. The calls come day and night. There is no like 9-to-5 job here. There's no financial compensation. Eunice does not get paid for doing this. The goal is to keep alive an orphan raccoon or possum, or assist them if they're abandoned. A family of squirrels, for example, abandoned. She brings them in and she takes care of them for a limited period of time. What we're proposing or what we're asking is to continue to allow us to house up to the 25 raccoons that are permitted under the license and 15 possums. Occasionally we get a squirrel or woodchuck. Primarily the season is the spring through the fall. Am I correct?
Yes.
It's not really a winter. There's not really a lot of activity in the winter. As I mentioned in the presentation I made in our application, the cages are escape proof. They're sized to state regulation. We maintain MSD sheets for any chemical spray. They're sterilized, they're washed, they're bleached on a daily basis. We apply lime regularly. The bedding's replaced every 2 weeks. We do what we can to maintain the insect control. We have fly traps. DE is used daily. Raccoons are vaccinated. They're dewormed. Again, Eunice partners with a local veterinarian, and that local veterinarian makes sure that all the animals are vaccinated. They're penned in these double-doored cages. Once they reach rehabilitation, whether that's 6 weeks or some period of time, they're released. They have to be released within 3.5 miles of their original habitat. They aren't released in the neighborhood. They're not released necessarily in Guilford. They're released to wherever the people had brought them. I think maybe, I don't know if it maybe helps, but why don't we bring up, if we could, I apologize for jumping around a little bit, but maybe we could bring up the photographs, which I'd submitted with my original application. I don't know, Aaron, is that too much to ask if we could bring up, looks like maybe Exhibit I? I don't know if that.
Let me ask a quick question while Aaron's pulling that up. Can you tell me more about this association with DP Rescue and why this was not brought up at any point up till just a few minutes ago?
Well, and it was brought up, I guess it brought up a few minutes ago. I mean, respectfully, in this presentation. First of all, the association with that was, the idea of what you have to prove as to philanthropic is not defined in your regulation. So I got the copy of the town comments. I guess the town report came in, I don't want to say June 1st, or maybe I'm saying the wrong date. Let me just take a quick look. And in that report, there was a question about whether we had established sufficient or presented sufficient evidence with regard to our nonprofit status. And so, yeah, and Aaron Manick's, staff report. And so, and even that's why I submitted the proof.
Aaron, have we seen that? Because I don't see that in any of our materials.
My staff memo?
No, the one with respect to DP rescue.
Correct. So I'm happy to share that, and I can organize these exhibits. Documents were emailed this afternoon from Attorney Crosby as exhibits. However, a lot of those exhibits are already pages of your application and that were not labeled as exhibits. So I'm happy to reorganize those to coincide with the exhibit letters. I do have that documentation from the nonprofit here that I received. I can share that with you right here. And then this is a scan sheet here for DP Rescue that I received. I'm sending this on behalf of Eunice Demond, 311 Old Whitfield Street, Guilford, Connecticut, 06437. She's an active board member as standing secretary for my nonprofit wildlife rescue, number 85-104-7711, State of Connecticut, Department of Consumer Protection, number CH0064272 since May 16th, 2020. Thank you, Donna Page. That is the documentation you're referring to, Tom?
Yep, and then there's a second page with the actual, I think there's a page behind that.
Yeah, this is the exempt status.
Right.
From the IRS. With verification that DP Rescue is a registered 501c3 nonprofit. Do you have documentation, Tom, aside from this that identifies Little Rascals as a entity of DP
I think what I have,
Rescue, that they're operating under that?
I think it's Eunice Demond that's operating under that. And that's where, and then she's happened to, I mean, it's a trade name. It's that she calls Little Rascals, that's the name under which she runs her operation, Little Rascals Rescue and Rehabilitation. But it's Eunice that is a part of this organization that has the 503c, 501.
But the address on that letter from the IRS was for Bristol, Connecticut.
Yes, of course. That's the address of that organization, right? DP is a overarching rescue operation of which my client is a member, secretary on the board, and that organization has as an umbrella, it's the various members that operate their wildlife rescues wherever they are in the state. They don't all, like say there's 10 board members or 6 board members, they don't all operate out of Bristol.
Is DP Rescue registered with the state?
I believe it is, yes. I'd have to double check that. I didn't dig too much into their corporate history, but they are. Okay.
I'm on the Secretary of the State's website and there's no listing for them. So I'm just curious to that effect.
Yeah, I don't know that, I mean, again,
Well,
I'm as your philanthropic.
Part of what we're doing tonight is, as you know, we have 2 meetings for a special permit. So,
yep.
Perhaps what we can do is get some more clarification on the corporate structure and, and bring that up at our next meeting as, call it, questions posed and hopefully clarified.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Jamie. I think that there are other philanthropic, charitable nonprofits operating in the town. So maybe if staff could give us a little bit of information on how those entities were able to show their status as nonprofit, that might help.
Okay, thank you, Jamie.
So I guess we'll allow you to continue with a couple of those questions. Thanks, Tom.
No problem. So I think I was pretty much to the end of the tunnel here, but basically that, that our goal is to ask you for permission to prove what we've been doing, but what we want to continue to do. And we want to do it with, your support. So we're asking for the approval of your commission under 273 16A, Table 4, line 16. But in particular, I would say that there are references in that it's philanthropic and organizations or business for nonprofit. So I don't know that we actually have to, I don't know how deep you've gone into, as the other commission member just mentioned, into having to prove the nonprofit status. I think I could certainly ask Eunice. Let me just turn the camera here. Eunice, do you get paid for anything doing this?
I absolutely do not. All of my time is donated. I may receive a few donations when somebody drops off an animal. There's no pay. Everything comes out of my pocket. If it's food, vaccinations, the vets will give me a break. Sometimes they don't charge me at all. If they're seeing an animal with a broken leg and it may need surgery, or they may need a vaccination or an antibiotic, sometimes, they'll throw it at me and sometimes they'll charge me for it. There's absolutely no money making when you're being a wildlife rehabilitator. You're doing it for the love of the animals, and that's it.
Thank you. And I do appreciate that. And I guess one of the things that we're struggling with is, just because you're not making money doing it does not necessarily define that as a not-for-profit. So I guess maybe we'll try and get some clarification on that also. So.
I guess I'm not going to step on, Ms. Manick's, report, but I guess I will mention that, there's been several, let's say, arguments raised, and it's always kind of awkward to try to anticipate other arguments when you're making a positive presentation asking for approval. But I will say very much so that we are not a pet boarding facility. I know some of the letters in opposition talk about 273-22F. That applies to uses in non-residential zones, I think particularly industrial zone, but it certainly is a regulation about pet boardings. We're not a pet boarding facility. I'd also mention that, people have cited the town's ordinance. And again, I thought, kudos to Ms. Mannix on doing the research to the 1991 adoption of that ordinance, which dealt with, as Dr. Borgen's report from the state of an expected rabies epidemic, which wound up calling for him to adopt a health department ordinance. And that ordinance was to minimize exposure between raccoons and humans for those who are not authorized personnel. Certainly, Ms. Demond is an authorized personnel, being that she's vaccinated, or
Correct.
I think you've had the rabies vaccinations, yes, and so forth, which makes her this qualified RVS certified rehabilitator. Also, that the ordinance, designed to prevent people, or just from unqualified individuals chasing down and destroying animals. So I think that first of all, that's probably not in your exact bailiwick. It's probably a consideration you'd want to look at, but it's not in your exact bailiwick to look at health department regulations. I know that Dennis Johnson came out and inspected the facility for a number of years, at least since 2015.
Correct.
There was probably one health department NIT that was, I guess there was a animal in the area that had died, and I believe there was a.
Yeah, it was hit up on Whitfield Street, and it rolled down the bank of my property, and it was decaying, and I didn't realize it was there. So people were complaining about an odor that was coming from my property, and it turned out to be, it was just a dead opossum that had been hit by a car.
So that was addressed, and I think those, I've also, not that I wanted to get this far into the, deep into the woods, no pun intended, but, that there is, I did submit the health department, let's say inspections that have occurred, which both support our argument that we're a continuation of something that's already been, let's say, regulated by the town, but also show that, I think, all cleaned up, or that there have been inspections from time to time, not only by DEP, but also the town health department, to make sure that this operation is run in a way which meets the health standard and health code. So I think that's it. I mean, I could, that's pretty much, we're looking for you to help us support the Little Rascues Rescue and Rehabilitation, which is Eunice Damon, which is a doing business as, or a trade name, or whatever you want to call it, but it's her way of defining what she does. And it provides this unique resource, which answers the bell and the call to so many needs for people, all the police. I think some of the, I don't want to go through the 6,638 signatories that I submitted today, but, in support of this. But I think what I do want to say is the police call, Eunice, I guess you get calls from everybody, from citizens, from health officials.
I had one yesterday. There was this poor raccoon that was running up 146 with a jar on its head. The police department was responding. I went out to try to help, to try to capture this poor thing that was obviously suffering. Unfortunately, he went off into the woods and we weren't able to capture him. But it's scenarios like that, or 1 a.m. when an opossum mom gets hit by a car and her belly's full of joeys and they're crawling all over the street. The police department calls me. Or an owl that's flown through somebody's window. I need me to go and pull him out and make sure that he's okay and get him up to a place called Hope. It's numerous things between the local animal control officers, if it's Branford, Madison, Guilford, Clinton, West Haven, wherever it may be. If there's an animal in need, they're going to call me if they can't get a hold of one of the other local rehabilitators. And because I'm the only one in the shoreline that does deal with raccoons, they're typically calling me to see if I have room.
So I think that's pretty much our presentation for tonight. And we'll be happy to give you more information about the nonprofit status at the next hearing. I know we're going to continue this at some point.
Tom, you made comments with respect to the town ordinance regarding raccoons.
Right.
And you indicated something about other than persons who are authorized.
Yes, I'm reading the second page of Erin Mannix's report. And what she says is, during the public hearing, Dr. Borgen indicated that the purpose of this ordinance was to minimize exposure between raccoons and humans. Selectman Matthias made a recommendation that item 1 be modified to state that their removal by quote, or by quote, by authorized personnel, unquote, is encouraged, so that the ordinance does not encourage unqualified individuals to chase down and destroy animals. And then they also made another amendment, both of which apparently did not make their way into the ordinance. And again, I think I would cite the actual ordinance itself contains the discretion of the public health director to modify and amend that as necessary. I think if you look at, I think what's been cited is the section is a 131 -5, but if you look down below the 131-7, I believe you'll see that this is really all the health department, their particular jurisdiction.
So, but 131-5, and I'm reading it, if you don't mind, says,
Sure.
Quote, no person shall feed, harbor, or shelter raccoons, feral cats, foxes, and coyotes within the town of Guilford, and their removal is encouraged.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't reference, authorized personnel or trained personnel. Perhaps that was originally an intent, but as it stands now, that's what the ordinance, says. Would
Right.
you concur?
I agree, and I'm also relying upon your town official, Erin Mannix, and her, recitation of the legislative history of that, which is of course important because you want to know, like, why is this regulation in place? I think you also want to read, and I guess I want to make sure I had a copy of 131-7, which
Right.
allows.
It says Director of Health for Town of Guilford is hereby authorized to add additional species to this prohibition from time to time as such director deems necessary. So it doesn't say anything about removing them.
Oh, I agree. But I mean, I think it does say that the jurisdiction of this particular provision is within the health department. It's not a basis for the zoning commission to make a decision one way or the other.
I would go one step further, excuse me, that, so I did have a meeting with our town council and our health director regarding the ordinance and authorities governing the ordinance. The ordinance clearly is adopted by the Board of Selectmen. It is not under the Planning and Zoning Commission does not have jurisdiction over the ordinance. However, the Planning and Zoning Commission can take the existence of this ordinance into effect when reviewing whether or not a special permit is appropriate. The authority of the health director is, just as you indicated in section 131-7, is specifically to add additional species to this list of prohibited animals. The actual authority of the ordinance was determined to be with the police department. And so that is not the health director who enforces this ordinance. As written, it is clear, the wording of the ordinance does prohibit the feeding, harboring, and sheltering of raccoons. That being said, that is a conversation to have with the Board of Selectmen as to whether or not any potential changes to this ordinance would be entertained. For example, adding language as they had discussed in the original public hearing when this ordinance was adopted in '91. If they want to add remove species, they want to add language as far as qualified professionals. These are questions that would have to be discussed with the Board of Selectmen.
So Tom, I guess what I'm saying is, I hope you can appreciate it, that it's somewhat problematic for us to grant a special permit that's in direct conflict with an ordinance.
But you would agree, would you not, that you allow animal shelters as an accessory use in residential zones? So 27338 is in direct conflict, if that's the case, allowing animal shelters. And I think I guess I would come back to home. I'm here in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think this is what your regulations say. I agree there's conflict or potential conflict with the ordinance. But I guess I would, submit that that's, a different, there's a different court, so to speak, that decides that. I think here, your accessory uses include the animal shelter that we are currently operating.
Town ordinance specifies the animals that are prohibited. So we're talking about specific animals, and
right.
Shelters are could be just cats and dogs, not raccoons.
Could be, right, or could be raccoons. I know you're right, absolutely right. I think there's a zoning regulation say you can have animal shelters, and then you're right. There's a health department ordinance or an ordinance that is enforced by the police department that talk about those particular species that you just identified.
Aaron, there's been several references to your memo. Would you like to read your memo into the record? Thank you.
I can share that as well. Dated June 1st, 2021 to the Planning and Zoning Commission from Aaron Mannix, Zoning Enforcement Officer, regarding Eunice Demond 311 Old Whitfield Street special permit application to allow nonprofit philanthropic wildlife rescue and rehabilitation facility Little Rascals. The Planning and Zoning Office received a written complaint in November 2020 regarding a wildlife animal rehabilitation center and the construction of structures accessory to such use on a residential property. After a search of the land use records and inspection of the property, I issued an enforcement order on January 7th, 2021. On February 5th, 2021, Attorney Thomas Crosby filed an appeal of this order to the Zoning Board of Appeals on behalf of the property owner Eunice Demond. This appeal is still pending. Section 273-16A, Table 4, Line 16 of the zoning code permits facilities of philanthropic, charitable, agricultural, historical, and cultural institutions or societies not conducted as a business or for profit by special permit in all residential zones. The applicant is before you seeking approval for a wildlife rescue and rehabilitation facility known as Little Rascals. As detailed in her application, Ms. Demond seeks permission to house and care for up to 25 raccoons, 15 opossums, and/or assorted squirrels, woodchucks, rabbits, no skunks, in penned double-door cages. The commission should first verify that Ms. Demond's proposed use can be considered a facility of philanthropic institution or society not conducted as a business or for profit. The application materials include copies of Facebook fundraisers. However, there is no reference to any institution or society of which Little Rascals Rehabilitation is affiliated. In addition, there is no reference in the application materials to a 501c3 nonprofit status. Should the applicant sufficiently demonstrate to the commission that the proposed use is consistent with Table 4, Line 16, then the commission should begin to weigh the standards for a special permit as detailed in Section 273-80 attached. The town of Guilford adopted an ordinance in 1991, Chapter 131, Article 3, Wild Animals, also attached, which states in Section 131-5, no person shall feed, harbor, or shelter raccoons, feral cats, foxes, and coyotes within the town of Guilford, and their removal is encouraged. The minutes from the June 3rd, 1991, July 1st, 1991, and July 15th, 1991 Board of Selectmen meeting indicated that the Director of Health at the time, Dr. John Brogdon, received a report from the state informing him of an expected rabies epidemic in the area. There was evidence of a new strain of rabies, primarily in raccoons, that could spread to pet animals and humans. Dr. Brogdon noted areas in town of concern where feral cats and raccoons lived out of dumpsters. He also noted there were some other problems in town where residents were feeding wild raccoons and cats, which was hazardous. He recommended to the town to consider the enactment of an ordinance to prohibit the feeding of wild animals. During the public hearing, Dr. Brogdon indicated that the purpose of this ordinance was to minimize exposure between raccoons and humans. Selectman Mathias made recommendation that item number 1 be modified to state their removal by authorized personnel is encouraged so that the ordinance does not encourage unqualified individuals to chase down and destroy animals, and that number 3 be modified to add the statement, and upon review and approval by the Board of Selectmen. At the meeting of July 15th, 1991, Selectman Mathias commented that the 2 changes noted at the public hearing had been made, and he felt the ordinance should be adopted. The Board of Selectmen did adopt the ordinance later in that same evening. Based on my reading of the current ordinance, the modified language did not make its way into the text. While the ordinance is not enforced by the Planning and Zoning Commission, you may wish to consider whether or not its existence impacts the proposed use and its ability to be in harmony with and conform to the appropriate and orderly development of the town. Included in the application materials is a wildlife custodian appointment for Eunice Demond, authorized by Connecticut Deep Bureau of Natural Resources Wildlife Division. This appointment indicates that Eunice Demond is authorized to transport and possess non-migratory birds, reptiles, and mammals other than deer. Rehabilitation of up to 25 raccoons at her location, 311 Old Whitfield Street. Lori Fortin, CT Deep wildlife biologist, has inspected the site with myself and Health Director Sonia Marino on April 9th, 2021. At the time, there were no animals present on the site. Lori Fortin has provided an email detailing her involvement in the property and with Eunice Demond. The applicant is seeking a waiver of a professionally prepared site plan and has included a hand-drawn layout plan showing the house, sheds, and fencing on the property. There are also photos included in the application documents. It is within the commission's purview to refer this application to the Design Review Committee. The statement of use included in the application details the purpose, maintenance, health, and release of animals. The copy of the building permit dated February 7th, 2020, February 17th, 2021, included in the application documents is for an 8-foot by 8-foot pop-up shed behind the existing garage and not for the animal enclosures cited in my enforcement order that were constructed last fall without permits. Zoning permits should be obtained for all unpermitted accessory structures on the site. Eunice DeMond's property consists of 2 separate parcels, including map block lot 033023 and map block lot 033024. While the structures associated with the rehab facility are located on parcel 033024, section 273-15C states that if 2 or more adjoining lots of record, 1 or more of which fails to meet the requirements of these regulations with regard to lot area, shape, or frontage, and are in single ownership at any time after the application of the provisions of these regulations to such lots, and if such lots taken together would form 1 or more lots, each meeting the requirements with regard to lot area, shape, and frontage, such lots shall no longer be considered non-conforming and must be used in compliance with the current lot area, shape, and frontage requirements, irrespective of subsequent changes of ownership. This is essentially a merger provision in our regulations that would treat these 2 parcels as 1 lot with respect to the zoning code. It would be my recommendation that these lots be formally merged on the land records. I have also attached here the standards as indicated in section 273-80 of special permit standards. I'm not sure you need me to read all of the standards as well. I can leave them up or reference them as the commission needs to. And I have also attached Article 3 of the town code, which is the wild animals ordinance for reference.
Tom, do you want to add any additional information with respect to how the application for a special permit meets the criteria as laid out for a special permit? Or you would
I think,
rather move forward, and we have a lot of people, I'm sure there's.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was trying to wait for you to finish. No, I think I've indicated, the question of the location. There's certainly access. The streets serving this are adequate to carry traffic to and from. I think we're bounded by 2 streets, as I mentioned, the railroad tracks. And then certainly, given the size of the lot, I think I've established that the 0.58 acres is a sufficient size for this. I guess we're talking about approximately 500 square foot facility, I guess. Then also some of the other ones, there's not really an architectural design that's in play here. I don't think there's an effect on historic properties or districts. So I think that, really, I think, the main comment we have is that as a nonprofit, which, is trying to present this application with its, fundraising, as well as other things, we've asked that you waive the requirement for a formal architectural plan. So at some point, I don't know if you have to take a vote on that or how you address that, but that's something that the applicant has sought, is the waiver of a professional site plan. But other than that, I think I've kind of covered everything.
I'm happy to discuss the waiver of the site plan. As you may know, we had an application a few meetings ago where safety was a real concern with respect to there not being a professionally developed site plan. And I personally have similar concerns with respect to the animal rescue operations and not having it really professionally developed, so that we, town staff, health department, all the people that are associated with and in connection with overseeing it, have a real understanding about what is going on. And again, I'm just one vote, but I'm happy to listen to the commissioners if you want us to consider that now, or we can proceed forward. Any other commissioners have any comments with respect to wanting to see a professionally developed site plan versus a non, personally, I guess personally developed site plan would be the. Sean, how do you feel about that?
But I think that would be the preferred route, personally.
Oh, Phil, this is Jamie, if I may. I just still have some questions, so I'm
Sure.
not sure if I feel comfortable. I'm still sort of seeking some information about, in my just look at it, this is a very physical thing that we're being asked to review. So I just, have some more questions before I'd like to.
Okay, and again, I'm just trying to put it out there to just get a sense for how people are feeling about this right now. We can certainly continue, because I'm sure there are other people that would like to comment. I believe there might be.
Wallace would like to comment.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, Richard.
Well, getting back to your point on the professionally developed site plan, I'm going to echo you. We have consistency as well as safety. We just can't ignore these things. It's great if you can draw something up, but the professional aspect protects both the applicant and us.
This is Scott Admin. Aaron, was there a hand-drawn site plan as part of the application?
Yes, I'll share this, what I have with you. This is a copy of the tax map here, where there's an overlay on this portion, so you're not seeing the overall site plan. This is a detail here of the area. Overall, this is the house up here, and detached garage, and this is an above ground pool. And then there's a detail sheet here where this is indicating the rear of the property, the hillside up to Whitfield Street. This is the facility area here, which is 85 feet from Old Whitfield Street.
Aaron,
North. Yes.
Aaron, does this include both the lots that you're recommending be considered one lot on the town map?
This is, no, this does not encompass the entire property. This is, this particular image is a blown up image of the fenced in enclosure of the animal.
Right. So 24 feet from Old Whitfield Street.
This is 24 feet from 302. However, I think it might be 301. Whitfield is the neighboring property. So the fence line is 24 feet from the property line. Okay. So that's to the north, I believe.
Yes, it is.
You're right. North here.
Right.
Yes.
How about the rear setback, Aaron?
The rear setback, the property line heads up the hill. I don't have confirmation on that distance. Let me see if this page here shows. I do not have that distance to the rear property line that I can read off of this. I don't know, Eunice, is that something that you could add? Is that a dimension in here that you added?
From the back of the fence to where the hill starts to go up, it's approximately 18 feet, and then it goes up the bank, I want to say roughly 60 feet.
And where is the property line? At the top of the bank or at the base of the hill?
It's sort of like, it's several feet up the hill. So
Okay.
it's not quite at the base of the hill. It's like 3 or 4 feet up the hill. So from the back of the back fence to the property line is approximately 21 feet.
Okay.
Again, I think, you know,
Okay, so that,
it kind of lends itself to, you know, having the development of a professionally developed site plan. So we're not kind of guessing as to where things are and whether or not these are compliant in their current location or not. Aaron, your memo mentioned building permits. Have those been secured since?
no, not at this point. I think some of this one, there is a pending appeal of my order. And through this process, Eunice is seeking permission for the use. Should this application not be successful, there may not be a reason to retain those structures. That's really up to the property owner, so that I have not, you know, at this point, pending the appeal and this approval process, we're holding off on obtaining building permits.
Okay.
I think the permit, by the way, is only as to one structure. Is that correct?
Correct. The other structures have been there for 4+ years.
It's this, yeah. So in the rear,
And the structures might be likely subject to the blight provision, right?
Hold on. Sorry, we're
excuse
not in
me,
public
we
comment.
will open for public comment, but we would ask to not have members of the public interrupting. Thank you. This structure that I'm sharing here, so these are the larger raccoon cages. This area, when I inspected, was new construction of a smaller hutch type structure. It doesn't have the height that the other ones do. And even as far as documentation of a legally non-conforming structure, that onus would be on the property owner to demonstrate to me that these structures are legally non-conforming. That doesn't necessarily mean they don't have to obtain a permit to legalize them. It would mean that I could not require them to be relocated should they not comply with setbacks. So there is there is a little more documentation as far as verifying the structures have been there for more than 3 years. Yes.
Aaron, can I ask you to bring the photos up of that were submitted with the application? I think they're color photos, but just to show.
Yes, I do have your photos. You had mentioned that earlier in your presentation, Tom. I apologize. So as items have been scanned into and in a Zoom format, these are not necessarily facing the appropriate direction. So I apologize that everyone is turning their heads here. However, this is a good overall photo of the existing structures, I should say, the fenced-in enclosure. This would be looking at sort of from an angle of Old Whitfield Street. You can see the hillside in the back here, where Whitfield comes up over to cross the train tracks. So to the north would be at the top of your screen here. This is the screened, it's chain link fencing with a mesh coating on it. This is one raccoon enclosure, and this is the second as well. There's a covered walkway in here. And you can kind of see here, this is a neighboring property. And this is the side view. I would say this is the new structure units that was constructed without a permit, correct?
Correct. It's approximately 100 square feet.
Yes. And that's just fencing set in front of that structure.
Correct.
This is looking out towards Old Whitfield Street. This is Eunice's house here and the pool. These are smaller cages behind the existing structures. This is one shed in front. And the raccoon enclosures are behind here, or in front, excuse me, I should say. So this is when you enter into the fenced area. This is that covered walkway that I described in between. There's one enclosed area here for this door, I believe, leads to your cage area, and this is your enclosed food storage area.
No.
Just correct me if I'm wrong.
That's basically for tools, towels, stuff like that. The food storage is a large Rubbermaid on the outside of the enclosure area.
Okay, so this is the double doored entrance
Correct.
into one side of the raccoon cage. These are isolation cages in between. And I think this is just another picture of the same. This is your door access is here to your second cage. Is that correct?
Correct.
So there's a second raccoon enclosure in here. And food storage on this side as well, Eunice, or no?
No, that's all on the outside to the left side of the fence.
In the shed?
Yes, there's no food storage inside. In the enclosure on the right-hand side, there's one aluminum garbage can, so if any open bags of food is stored in there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions at this time from commissioners? Okay, so here's how it's going to go from there. The first thing we're going to do is if there are questions from the public with respect to this application, we'll take questions first. I would respectfully ask that you start by stating your name and address for the record, and not turn questions into comments, as we will get to comments both in favor and against this application at a later time. So again, with the number of people that are in this room, it's a little more difficult for us to see. Aaron, I don't know if you have a better ability than I to find out if there are.
Yeah, it may be a good opportunity for people to raise their hand and use that feature, and we can call on you.
Unbelievable.
I also just wanted to, I know we typically read staff reports into the record. We did read mine. I do not have any other town staff reports. However, we do have a letter from Lori Fortin from DEEP. And I just wanted to remind, I don't know if you want that read.
Sure.
Into the record.
Jamie, you want to read that one into the record for us?
Yeah, sure. Aaron, would you mind putting it up?
Yes.
Also, Mr. Chairman, since there are a lot of people who probably have something to say, I would perhaps make a motion or ask that we limit comments and questions to 2 minutes. Can we put a time frame on that?
Sure. Let's see how it goes. If someone starts to go on.
Okay.
I don't want to pre-limit people, but I thank you for the suggestion.
Great. May 5th, 2021, to whom it may concern, I am writing this letter on behalf of Eunice Demond, who has been authorized as a wildlife rehabilitator since 2012. Like other wildlife rehabilitators, Eunice completed an all-day training course that covered topics such as state laws and regulations relating to wildlife, evaluating orphaned animal situations, the do's and don'ts of caring for common mammals and birds found in our state, and how to recognize, manage, and control the transmission of diseases found in wildlife. In order to become recognized as a volunteer wildlife rehabilitator who can legally care for sick, injured, and orphaned wildlife, Eunice completed a 40-hour apprenticeship with an authorized Connecticut wildlife rehabilitator. got a signed statement, and created a partnership with a local veterinarian and passed an examination to prove that she understood the fundamentals of caring for wild animals. Additionally, Eunice completed a mandatory class focused on the care of rabies vector species, RVS, and got vaccinated for rabies so that she could become an RVS rehabilitator. As part of the RVS requirements, Eunice must have an outdoor pre-release cage that is at least 6 feet wide by 8 feet long by 6 feet high. The structure must have either solid or double wired walls, a solid or double wired roof, wire buried under the floor, a double door vestibule entrance, and a locking system to keep unwanted visitors out. This 6 by 8 by 6 foot cage is considered by the National Wildlife Rehabilitators Association to be adequate for housing 4 juvenile raccoons prior to release. Being that Eunice is one of the approximately 15 people in the state able to care for raccoons, and that 300 or more raccoons are found orphaned each summer, you can imagine that a wildlife rehabilitator receives numerous pleas for help with baby raccoons. On average, raccoon rehabbers in small home-based facilities are caring for at least 10 and as many as 40 animals per year, and are turning away numerous others. The limiting factor is typically financial constraints and the ability to provide adequate outdoor housing. I first visited Eunice in the summer of 2015 to review her cages and to talk with her about RVS policies. Like many RVS rehabilitators, Eunice made some stumbles early on, and we had conversations regarding improvements that should be made. Since 2015, we have talked many times about animal cases and caging, and each time she has taken my advice and implemented as many changes as possible. Some of the changes included, but were not limited to, removing debris, old structures and cages from her property, erecting new fencing, implementing better cleaning protocols, purchasing a shed to more safely store animal foods, and creating an outdoor quarantine area within her outdoor caging complex. The size and scope of her activities has also become more refined, and she now limits the number of raccoons she will take in, as well as limiting herself to a smaller subset of species. I most recently visited Eunice on April 9th of this year. We talked about limiting flies and rats, which is a challenging task for anyone who houses animals. I suggested that she use the green screen that she used on her privacy fence on the outside of her raccoon cage instead of a solid wall, or in addition to her wire sides. That may help reduce the number of flies that can easily access the cages. Caring for an animal that likes to soak its food in water and that is learning to forage and needs food available around the clock makes it nearly impossible to not have some flies, but perhaps mesh sides will help. We talked about removing a few more piles of wood and/or any cages that may be less useful. As a wildlife rehabilitator, money is tight and everyone tends to hold on to things that they think may be useful. Eunice is no different, but she is doing a much better job of not piling up materials or scattering them around her yard. I didn't see any signs of rats or of food being out in the open. I did see a woman who is passionate and dedicated to her quest to help raccoons and other animals. Her enthusiasm and tireless efforts to provide care for animals is inspiring. I have never known her to be confrontational or unwilling to do everything that she can to meet the constant demands placed upon her. I have worked for the DEEP, as the permitting officer for the wildlife rehabilitators since 1998, and I have visited numerous facilities and dealt with many rehabilitators who faced violations or similar requests, and very few have handled themselves as gracefully and efficiently as Eunice. Whether you like her or not, whether you approve of her efforts to care for orphan baby raccoons or not, you can't deny that she is determined and clear about her mission. She has most certainly made Herculean efforts to make improvements in order to maintain the privilege of working with wildlife, and I believe she will continue to do so. I also believe she has provided the town of Guilford and the entire region with a unique service. The state receives 2,000 plus calls each month during the summer from people urgently trying to help injured, orphaned, and sick wildlife. We rely upon a network of roughly 300 volunteer wildlife custodians who care for 13,000 plus animals each year. Rehabilitators get no financial or emotional support for the many calls at all hours, day and night, for the countless number of sick and injured animals that they desperately try to help keep alive, or worse yet, have to euthanize, or for the many mouths they are feeding and cleaning up after. Being a wildlife rehabilitator takes a great amount of compassion and character. It's a tireless, often thankless, definitely sleepless endeavor. It requires learning and relearning diets, formulas, medications, vaccinations, and release techniques. It takes an army of like-minded allies, friends, colleagues, and family members to get through each and every season. Guilford is blessed with not just one, but several people willing to go the extra mile to help wildlife. Hopefully the town can find a way to help support them and help them make improvements that everyone can be proud of. Should you have any questions or concerns about the Wildlife Rehabilitation Program or about Eunice's activities relating to wildlife rehabilitation, please do not hesitate to contact me. The best way to reach me right now is by email, lori.fortin@ct.gov.
Thank you. Are there any specific other items, Aaron, that we need to read into the record?
No, of course, we've received multiple letters, correspondence, either in support or in opposition. And those we can reference when you open up to public comment.
So I went through them earlier today, and I would say there's approximately, give or take, 50 letters of support, many of which have a similar tone, all of which speak to Eunice's efforts. There's also 5 or 6 letters, I believe, against the application. All of those are available to be viewed on the town's website. And I would encourage people to take a look at those. Some of them are not signed or list an address. So we, as a general statement, we don't tend to read letters into the record that are, let's call it anonymous, for lack of a better term, because we don't know really who wrote it. But I would encourage everyone who is interested to visit the Planning and Zoning website, go to the meeting materials, and review the letters that were submitted. Because again, I think they speak to the good efforts of Eunice and what she's trying to do. That being said, I believe we're at the point now where I'm going to open the floor to questions from the public. Again, I would ask you to be as specific as you can be and concise. It is 10 o'clock at night, and at some point we will turn off the lights, and we will continue this to our meeting of July 7th, I believe. But let's get some questions on the table and see if we can get some answers. Would anyone like to ask a question?
I have a question.
Okay, is this Sally and Alden?
Yeah, well, it's just Sally at the moment.
Hi, Sally. If you could state your name and address for the record, that would be terrific.
Yes, I don't know if I'm permitted to ask a question. I am not a resident of Guilford. I was raised there and I work there and I do business there and I have family there, but I'm not currently a resident. I reside in.
I would say that she's not welcome to submit a question.
Hold on, Aaron. I don't think you have a requirement of residency. Is that correct? Aaron?
Sally, yes, you have a public comment, or a question, excuse me, you can ask a question.
Yeah,
We're asking you to identify your name.
Okay, my name is Sally Rush, and I live at 24 Janes Lane Extension in Clinton, Connecticut, 06413.
Okay, and what is your question, Sally?
I have 2. There's been a great deal of talk about proving nonprofit status, but if I understand the reg correctly, it reads that the business needs to not be operating for a profit. I'm not sure that's the same thing as being a licensed nonprofit. So that's something that I'd like to hear a little feedback on from the commission's point of view. The second thing is that in that zone, I believe wildlife sanctuaries are permitted by right. So I would like to know what the commission's thinking is on what the difference is between the rescue and rehab operation that is currently operating on the land is versus a sanctuary. In my mind, the only difference is that her operation is temporary in nature. And I'd be very interested in your take on that.
Aaron, do we have a copy of the regulation that has been referenced as wildlife sanctuaries are by right?
You're referring to table 4. Table 4 does, sure, I can share that.
And I guess part of
So that's correct. Line 24 of table 4 indicates wildlife sanctuaries and nature preserves, when not conducted as a business or for profit, are allowed, are permitted uses in all residential zones. And where you're looking at the application has been made under line number 16, facility of philanthropic, charitable, agricultural, historical, and cultural institutions or society not conducted as a business or for profit. Whether or not, I don't believe our zoning regulations clearly define either. As Attorney Crosby indicated, philanthropic facility may have a definition. However, I don't believe we have a definition of a wildlife sanctuary in our regulations.
So I guess, Sally, the answer is
that's correct.
We don't see this a lot. So this is a learning process for all of us as well. So what we do need to get some additional clarification on what technically is a wildlife sanctuary.
I think, yeah, I think that would be up to an applicant to come before. I would see, you know, it also references nature preserves. I would liken it to some type of Audubon society or something, a similar type of use. Yeah, I did not look into any history of our applications on that type of uses in preparation for this meeting. So that I would have to get back to.
We will see what we can do about getting some additional clarification.
If that's something that the commission was still interested in.
Okay. Go to the next question.
We do have a gentleman raising their hand. S. O'Connor or Sockner. If you could unmute yourself.
Sorry, I got you. Let's see.
I can't hear you here. I don't know. Did you call in? I'm not hearing your audio.
I don't see audio.
So you may have to, yeah, you may have to use your phone then. Is your phone tied into the audio?
I have a question.
Yeah, hold on, please. We're going to try and. Here we go. Hold on. See if we got that. Great.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Hi, my name is Steve O'Connor. I live at 265 Old Whitfield Street in Guilford. I have two questions. One of which is trying to get an understanding of the cease and desist order and the appeal. If the cease and desist order is still in effect or not. With the appeal, I don't know. And the second question is that if the special permit is granted and it is, as has been pointed out, sort of in conflict with the town ordinance on raccoon feeding, harboring, and other animals listed in the ordinance, would the town have any liability if an accident occurred and someone were injured as a result of allowing the special permit?
I'm not an attorney.
I
Sounds
guess.
like the question for
I'm
Chuck.
not sure
Yep.
it's the right forum, but it's something to be considered, I guess, or something I would like to be considered.
So the cease and desist order, your question is that the cease and desist order is still in effect. However, there has been an appeal filed of my order, a timely appeal that is pending a hearing. So further enforcement action is not being taken pending the appeal.
When is the CBA meeting?
It would be, it was tabled to the end of this month. However, there are still executive, there's time through the governor's executive orders to extend that for a period. So I can get back to you after calculating those dates when that would be heard.
Okay. Does that
And
help with the question? I mean, again, I think we would probably have to check with town council regarding a potential liability with respect to granting a special permit when there's an ordinance
So-
that conflicts it, but
yeah, I can say that the Planning and Zoning Commission, you have purview over the planning and zoning regulations, and quite often other agency, compliance with other agencies' requirements or ordinances can happen. For example, if a Planning and Zoning Commission approve a project, but that still needs Connecticut deep approval, that does not exempt them from those requirements as well. So there may be some overlying jurisdiction there.
Okay. Thank you.
We do have a question
Thank
here, Phil, from Kristen Floyd.
sure, Kristen, why don't you state your name and address for the record, please?
You need to unmute, Kristen.
31 High Street, Guilford. I'm just wondering if, given the concerns about the wildlife on Eunice's property, if anybody's actually gone to it and looked at it, because she has all kinds of different cages set up, and I don't think that's been properly captured.
Well, I can tell you that the Planning and Zoning Commission has not visited. We have not done a site plan. I know that Aaron has been to the site, but I would let Aaron speak to that.
And I'm wondering if there's perhaps a different area in Guilford where she could operate her operation, because where she has it currently doesn't seem to be good for wildlife at all.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess
Let's see.
I can't speak to whether or not there's other plots in Guilford. I mean, all we can really do is address the application that's before us. So I would guess there probably may be other sites, but that's not within our purview. So I will put it back out if someone else have another question they would like to ask.
I do not see anyone with their hand raised through the platform here. So if there's somebody who has a question.
Is that Alda, are you looking to ask a question? Hold on, let me unmute.
No.
Alda, if you could state your name and address for the record, that would be great.
279 Old Woodfield Street. I have two questions. One, is there a record of health visits to the site for the past three years? And two, when we were talking about wildlife sanctuaries, what animals does that include?
So back to the wildlife sanctuary question. We're going to have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
With respect to health violations, I believe there may be a listing of that.
Well, not violations, but regular inspections.
The health department responds to complaints. A public nuisance, a health nuisance complaint, it would be, or the health department, as well as myself as a zoning enforcement officer, respond to blight complaints. So those would be the reasons why their department would go out for a site inspection.
Even for vector animals.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
This is Scott Edmond. Mr. Crosby, with kind of bouncing off of that question, is there with the, I don't forget the exact certification that you presented as Eunice's certification. Is there requirements of that in terms of regular inspections from DEEP?
I can certainly answer that there are regular inspections. I think that was the part of the letter that was read into the record that Ms. Wharton has been inspecting since 2015. I believe Dennis Johnson was out, and now we have a new health director. But Eunice, why don't you tell, would you speak to the inspections?
Dennis Johnson was out several years ago. There was an issue on the property that Lori had also brought up. I was cited for blight, was given 30 days, got it all cleaned up, building was taken down, everything was taken care of, all cleaned up. There was a rodent problem when the neighbor's home, where 301 is, there's the house that was next door. When that house was completely refurbished and then 301 purchased the property, there was a rodent issue in that home that just messed up the whole thing, and they ended up moving on my property. Granted, it's my fault. There was an issue with rodents harboring underneath some old wood, or actually some new wood that I had that was donated, and it wasn't lifted off the ground enough. So Dennis asked me to lift it up, get it off the ground so they couldn't harbor underneath it. That was all taken care of. When it comes to DEP, we get our license renewed or do our reports yearly. If there's any issues whatsoever with the town, or if they get a complaint from somebody, they come out on a regular basis.
Does that answer your question, Scott?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
We can go to the next question if someone has their hand up.
I didn't see anybody.
Yeah, it looks like Meg Zellickson Smith.
Yes, hi. This is Meg Smith. I live at 66 High Street in Guilford. Can you give me a definition of blight?
There's a blight ordinance in town. It's rather lengthy, but I would refer you to the town code, which is on the homepage of the Town of Guilford website. And the blight ordinance is right available in there. It's a 2-page document.
Chapter 142.
Thank you.
So you can go to it's called E-Code 360 and just search in blight, and it brings up all of the scope, the provisions, definitions, special considerations, etc. It's not a short and quick answer, if that's answers your question. Anyone else popping their hand up?
I see Karen Putney.
Hi there. I have a quick question. This is Karen Putney, 72 Willow Road in East Haven. It's actually 2 questions. I know it was mentioned that Eunice has been operating for quite a long time and helping the residents in Guilford and the shoreline. Can I ask why this today in 2021 has come up that a special permit is needed? And my second question is, if Eunice is no longer available to help our Guilford residents, where is the next closest rabies vector rehabilitator that they would be able to utilize?
This application has been made in response to an enforcement order that was issued for no record of zoning approvals for the use on the property. And that is why Ms. Demond is coming forward to seek approvals. And as far as the closest vector rehabilitator, that you would have to check with the state of Connecticut. That's not something that we would have a list of.
Do you know?
The closest one is going to be, I believe she's going to be in Bristol. Everybody else is East Hampton. There's one in Hebron, Barkhamsted, New Milford. They're quite a distance.
Thanks, Eunice.
Thank you.
Are there additional questions? Can you help me out, Aaron? Can you see any? I mean,
I'm not seeing, I missed the last two. So
I see Miss
that's what I'm
Marjorie.
looking at.
I'm not.
Marjorie
hold on.
Skansky.
Marjorie Shansky.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. What time are you
Thank you,
going to cut
Marjorie.
off testimony?
I'm sorry.
What time are you going to cut off testimony?
I'm thinking 10:30. Because we're going to continue to the next meeting. So depending on, where things stand, that's my inclination. I like to respect the time and efforts of the commissioners.
Would it be your intention to intersperse pro and con?
Generally speaking, when we read the announcement, we asked for people who are willing to speak in favor of the application first, and then those who are objecting. But I'm open to going back and forth for the spirit of fairness to everyone.
Thank you.
My name is Nikki Corman. I don't know if my hand is raised or not. I own a property at 2514 Boston Post Road. I'm a business owner and I don't have a question, and I'm anxious to make a statement if I may be allowed to.
Well, actually, we're not quite there yet.
Okay, well, I'm concerned about your time factor and not allowing people to express themselves, express themselves in support or not of this situation. And I think it's unfair to cut the time off and not allow adequate support or non-support from the people.
If you don't, so what we do have is we have a second meeting scheduled for a special permit. So there will be the opportunity for people to speak at that meeting. And we're trying to follow the protocols set up for the Planning and Zoning Commission. And there's no requirement for us to stay here all night to listen to absolutely everyone. We will give people the opportunity for public input, but we will not be here all night. So that addresses your statement, but it wasn't a question. So I will field it back to Cindy. Looks like Cindy would like to speak, has her hand up.
Vaporis, yep.
Let me unmute myself. Hi, good evening. My name is Cindy Vaporis. I am the administrator of the Save Simon page. I live at 7 Alpine Drive in East Haven, Connecticut. My question is, what is it going to take for the town of Guilford and this neighbor to be satisfied with letting Eunice continue to help our wildlife? It's a question and it's going to be a statement because my phone's about to die and you guys are about to cut everybody off. The council members are very aware of who I am. I will be speaking with them. I want to tell you something. Since I have saved Simon and he is now living free, I have helped Eunice in transporting wildlife. I have helped other wildlife rehabbers across the state. I provide service dogs for disabled veterans. So it's not that I'm, overly against Guilford. But I have to tell you, I have looked at this whole thing and I've tried to be objective. Now, I understand people have done things on the property and, she needed to have a permit. Okay, fine. How can we get this done?
Right. So that is the whole point of going through this process. And it's not a predefined, how do we get it done? It's, is it appropriate and is it going to be permitted? So,
Well, my question is, what are the actual answers to that? Who is going to decide if it is appropriate?
that's the Planning and Zoning Commission.
But you just said that it was actually the commissions,
That's
the
us.
selectmen's.
No, so
Council.
the selectmen enact ordinance and regulation, and the
Mhm.
Planning and Zoning Commission is a land use commission that oversees the appropriate use and development of town and parcels in Guilford.
Okay, well, I guess my other thing I would like to find out is if in fact Eunice does bring everything up to code and there are no other complaints other than a person who's just moved into this neighborhood, what are her chances?
I'm not gonna even go near that question. Not
Well,
even anywhere close.
I mean,
that
I
would-
have
it
to
would
tell
be-
you, there are so many people out here that need her services. And I am across the state of Connecticut. I am not just in Guilford. I am not just in East Haven. I am statewide.
Right.
I have people asking me, who can they go to?
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I believe we answered your question.
But thank you very much.
right.
You couldn't answer my questions, but it won't be the last.
Okay.
Have a great night. Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.
Attorney Shansky, would you like to ask a question or make a statement?
I do have some comments, Mr. Chairman, if you're ready for that.
Sure.
Thank you, and I appreciate very much you're giving me this opportunity. I represent the neighbor at 301 Old Whitfield Street. But I want to first comment on some of the things that Attorney Crosby said at the outset. The fact that there is a permissible animal shelter, which has its own standards associated with it, may be an interesting thing. This is not an animal shelter. This is a rehabilitation place where injured or orphaned animals come for treatment, which is a beautiful thing in and of itself, but in the wrong location. So it's important to focus on not only what has been applied for, which is this philanthropic, charitable sort of overlay title business, which I argue is not applicable to the use in being, and by whom the application has been made, because the emergence of this DP rescue in the 11th hour, completely ignoring the governor's executive order that required all things to be supplied to commissions at least 24 hours in advance of a meeting, has left all of us sort of scrambling for the ability to be responsive on information that we've never seen before. But that 501c3 is not an applicant here. And so the umbrella under which this applicant, this individual applicant, now seeks to be recognized, very tenuous, very tenuous. So, for the applicant under the pending application, I think that there are issues there. I want to be very clear that Section 8-13A of the Connecticut General Statutes does not apply to use. There is never a period after 3 years when use is somehow ratified by the mere passage of time. There is a provision within that statute for certain industrial uses occupying more than 15 acres for whom that exception is made. It only applies to structures. So to suggest that this is seeking permission for a continuation of a use does not have recognition in the law. That is not a statement to which the commission must give any weight. There is no legitimacy of an unrecognized use by the mere passage of time. For all of her excellent work, Ms. Fortin at DEP is not the arbiter of land use in Guilford, and her impressions and opinions do not preempt, and even her licensure do not preempt the land use laws of Guilford. So I think that, there may be a momentum for the applicant to consider withdrawing and reapplying and sort of reframing this application. It is not a sanctuary. A sanctuary is where animals live, not where they go to be administered and then returned to where they live. So the bottom line on this is, and as I've said in my letter to you dated June 1st, this is not a permitted use in the Guilford zoning regulations. A special permit cannot be ascribed to a situation if it is not in the list of uses that are permitted by special permit. And to sort of tortuously suggest that because I don't make any money at it, it qualifies as philanthropic. The things I think of in Guilford that may qualify under that rubric would be things like the Guilford Women's Shelter or that thing on Fair Street, or Sarah, or any of the nonprofits that have functioned. Some of them may be in residential areas. They get designation because they are absorbed invisibly into the landscape. They don't have negative externalities that impose themselves on the abutting neighbors or the neighborhood in general. So I believe, and I describe in item 1 of my letter, there are only 5 items, I think, that this is not a use that you can recognize by special permit because your regulations are silent on the issue of animal rehabilitation.
I thought this was question time.
No, I've been invited to make comment.
I invited her to speak.
Secondly, under the law, a special permit use is a permitted use, subject to your review. And that is why conventionally, there is an enumeration of those uses in my letter, which I hope you'll have a chance to read.
I don't want to read it.
I give you citations to the law to support these propositions. In item number 3 of my letter, I talk about how an animal rescue and rehabilitation facility is not an accessory use to a residential use in the R3 zoning district. An accessory use is a use of a lot, building, or other structure which is subordinate to and customarily incidental to the principal use of such lot, building, or other structure. Customarily incidental, and it cannot be said with a straight face that an animal rescue is accessory to a residential use. And
Okay, enough.
Hey, enough.
while I didn't cite it in the letter, there's a wonderful case called Broaden v. Gallagher. It's a 1992 case from Guilford in which the zoning enforcement officer at the time, Mr. McAvoy, established that that he had not in 20 years as zoning enforcement officer encountered another pig on a residential lot in Guilford other than on a farm.
So you have
on that-
taken up the rest of.
Please, everyone, can we just show a little decorum here? Because I don't feel like throwing people out of meetings, but if people are going to start interrupting, that's the way it's going to go. So I will do my best to try and keep things on track. Marjorie, if you could continue, please.
Yes, and I'm almost done, Mr. Chairman, but the point was that the court found that the maintenance of a full-grown pig in a pigsty is not a customary use or incidental to residential uses in Guilford. And there is something analogous in that case to the situation before the commission. And then finally, with respect to Article 3, Chapter 131 of the Code of Ordinances, which the feeding and harboring of vector animals that got nicely vetted by the chair, in the letter from
Pardon the interruption, but you've been given an excessive amount of time and it's unfair to the other speakers that have been here.
I think we need to start pulling people out.
I'm doing it as people interrupt.
Well, I think it's unfair.
Well, just wait your turn, please.
In the letter from the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection designating the wildlife rehabilitator status to the applicant, that document dated February 24th, 2020 includes the following at paragraph 10. This appointment does not exempt a custodian from complying with all applicable town, city ordinances and regulations. So whether or not you think it is within your purview to violate a town ordinance, which I think would be beyond your jurisdiction, it is the fact that these town ordinances must be complied with even from DEEP's perspective. And consequently, this location and this use is not permissible in the town of Guilford. So I then have one more paragraph in which I discuss the importance with citations again to the law of having a formal site plan, but the chair and the commission, I believe, are leading in that direction. So I will close by citing to the Village of Euclid versus Ambler Realty case, the 1926 case, which established the legitimacy of land use regulation as an element of the police power, in which Justice Sutherland says, a nuisance may be merely a right thing in the wrong place, like a pig in the parlor instead of the barnyard. Kudos to the applicant for the work that she does. All of the people who are supporting should help her find an appropriate location for it. Mr. Chairman, again, thank you very much for allowing me to put this on the record.
I see a couple more hands up, and then we have some other commission business to do, but we will continue it. So I'm going to, Nicholas Deschamps, is that right?
And Chairman, I will want to respond at some point, so I
Sure.
just want to.
I'll give you an opportunity after a question, if that's all right, Tom.
I'm on my son's computer, so forgive me. My name is Judith Deshpande, formerly a resident of Guilford, recently moved to West Haven 1, Schoolhouse Lane in West Haven, Connecticut. I'm going to read, I took some notes during the presentation, and I just want to collect my thoughts while I'm giving you some information, and I'll keep it brief. The ordinance referenced was enacted to reduce, I'm a nurse practitioner, by the way, so safety, health is a big concern of mine. The ordinance referenced was enacted to reduce or eliminate the contact of humans with potentially rabid wildlife, per Dr. John Brogdon, with a pending new strain of rabies that was kind of infecting animals in the area. Eunice is rabies vaccinated, a professionally trained handler of wildlife. She steps in to reduce the exposure of citizens, potentially rabid animals, which demonstrates the full spirit of the ordinance. So yes, there's legal and then there's spirit, right? There's the law and the spirit of the law. The words are not reflective of all scenarios. How could they have known that there'd be this wildlife rehabber in Guilford back when they wrote that ordinance, right? It's actually supporting of Eunice and her mission, even if the wording isn't perfect. And you're now saying that this is an issue when your own health department, police department, who apparently have some obligation of oversight for this ordinance in your own zoning and your own zoning committee, have not raised issues in 9 years. Only with someone's attention has this been brought to anybody on anybody's radar, even though we've all known it's been there, right? Because I was there 20 years in Guilford and had experienced Eunice's good work. Many of us from many communities have relied on Eunice and her expertise. Her name and phone number are freely shared on every town shoreline Facebook page. You call anybody, ask anybody, who can help me with the raccoon in my yard? They're going to say, Eunice, here's her number. Everybody has that number in their phone. It seems that the issue is now raised by one individual, and it takes the entire town through this civic exercise. Safety is important, and if there's a safety issue, then let's list them and let the community provide support to Eunice so we can update the facility and to protect the citizens. This would be an opportunity for the community to help champion a hero, not criminalize or deter her from her work. It supports the health and safety of the community as it has for 9 years. And it provides kindness and care to the least among us, the wildlife of this community, which we all cherish. It is a request for a special permit as written. The type of animals that will occupy need to be in compliance with regulations, which that probably does need to be revisited. But if you look strictly at the ordinance, she's basically asking you to give her an ordinance that her property allows her to have. What animals house in that property, yes, that has to be discussed further, but her actual application should not be denied because it's within her rights to ask for this application. So I guess my final thought and question would be, what is the plan for the health and safety of this community and for all of the surrounding communities, frankly, if we have to go to wherever she was saying we have to go for the community, if the wildlife, are not, we don't have her to access for wildlife, and who's going to then go take that container off that raccoon's head? And are they going to get bitten? And is this going to be an issue for our safety and health of our community? Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. I wish I had an easy answer for you.
Thank you.
I don't, but we have to go through this process to figure out whether it's appropriate or not. So I do appreciate your question. Tom, I would kick it back to you, but before you make your comments, can I just make a couple quick
Yeah.
statements?
I had, excuse me, Phil, I see one more hand raised as well.
Okay, Anna, do you mind, Tom, if we just go to Anna Martino and then we'll go to you?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Anna, if you could be quick with your question or comment, that would be great.
Hi there, my name is Anna Martino. I reside at 69 Rogers Street in Branford, Connecticut. I am in favor of the grant for special permit use. I am a licensed wildlife rehabber. I service the surrounding towns of Branford and the shoreline, and I personally have worked with Eunice, and she mentored me. It's because of her that I'm a wildlife rehabber. And I wish that everybody was like Eunice. I have a greater appreciation for wildlife. I have a deep passion to educate the public on how we can cohabitate with animals. And please ask you to seriously consider her continued work that she does on behalf of your town, my town, every town in Connecticut. And she is one that I refer to often. If there's ever an animal that I'm in question of helping, she's right there to help me. That's what she does. Please consider granting the special permit. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just make a comment that all of the commissioners that serve take our responsibility very seriously, and nothing has been prejudged, and that's why we're sitting here going through this process. Tom, as I said before you speak, just let me give you a heads up on a few things that I'd like to hopefully hear from you when we meet next. That's just some additional information on DP Rescue, a response to whether or not a professional site plan would be considered to be submitted. Obviously, we don't know about the building permits and the zoning board of appeals, so maybe that will be resolved or not. So that being said, you've got the floor, and then I'm going to end the public comment for this evening and ask that it be continued to our July 7th meeting. So
I guess at this point, I would be willing to give up some of my time to any of those that have not yet spoken, if that's your inclination. I mean, if you're going to ask me to, and I guess I have to come back with a response with regard to DP Rescue, and I think the commission is asking us to prepare a professional site plan, which is something we're going to have to, put together. I think it probably makes more sense. I mean, I can certainly rebut some of what Attorney Shansky presented, but I don't know if that's the proper use of this time.
sure. I mean, if you want, I will, if you prefer, we can have you open with public comment at our next meeting, which is, as I said, the 7th of July, when this will be continued to.
I think that makes more sense since then I'm going to be talking twice.
Sure.
I've been talking twice, but I think that makes more sense.
Thank you. I appreciate your willingness. Would a commissioner like to make a motion to continue this public hearing?
Hey, Phil, this is Scott. I do want to kind of make a quick comment to you. I feel like we've delayed the decision on whether or not we're going to waive a site plan on some other projects, and it might have extended the amount of time that the applicant had to come back before us multiple times. And I feel like it might be prudent for us to make that decision here.
Sure. That way it's defined yes or no.
Correct. And that the applicant knows what they're getting into for the next meeting and so on and so forth.
May I make one comment?
Sure.
When 301 built their property line is still strung, and he's using that still as his property line for his garden borders. So I know that absolutely everything in my drawings on the site plan are absolutely 100% accurate, if that helps you guys make that decision or not. I mean, he never moved any of the strings that he put out when he had his property done.
I think what the commission is saying is that they want you to, to scale have a professional architect, locate the current dwellings, the property line, and the other, I guess, relevant features of the land.
Yeah,
As it pertains to the use as well. I mean, like for instance, as Phil suggested, we had a child services place come by, and we don't know anything about child services and playgrounds. And so therefore it was important to have professionals go through a site plan.
So that being said, Scott, would you like?
Yeah,
to
I'll make a motion that we do not waive the professional site plan for this application.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and second. Any discussion on it? I mean, I think there's a lot of issues going on, so I think we really need to err on the side of safety. So
Phil, this is Jamie. Just to make another comment on that, I agree with Scott. Having read Miss Fortin's note into the record, she listed some details and technicalities of the structure that I think are very important to have fully fleshed out and detailed in a site plan.
thank you. All right. Any other comments from commissioners? I'll call the vote. Sean Cosgrove,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Jamie Stein,
Yes.
Richard Wallace,
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Yes.
I will also vote yes. So we have voted not to waive the requirement for a professionally developed site plan. Would someone like to make a motion to continue the public hearing and public comment to July 7th, which will probably be in person, but we will certainly get information out to everyone via the town's website. Do we have a second
Can
on
I
that?
ask one question, please? May I ask one question? That given the fact that there have been so many participants tonight, is there any way for the board to put this case ahead of the other ones so that everybody who wants to speak has the opportunity to speak? I mean, I sat here for 3 hours, so I'm just asking the question, and I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
Probably not. If there are quicker items on an agenda, we would probably elect to handle quicker ones first. I apologize for that, but I also, for someone that has a CAM application that we can handle fairly quickly. But I don't have the agenda for that yet. It will be out in a week or two, I would guess.
I can say that at this point, Phil, and we do not have any new receipts this week. So we could be hitting a little bit of a lull for the summertime where it may not be as busy of an agenda. This was, unfortunately, we had quite a number of items on this week's agenda because of a notice defect, but hopefully we'll wind it down.
Great. So do we have a motion and a second to continue?
Move.
Thank
Second.
you. I'll call the vote.
Second.
Thank you. Sean Cosgrove,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Jamie Stein,
Yes.
Richard Wallace,
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Yes.
I will also vote to continue. Okay,
And that continuing is to the July 7th meeting.
correct.
Which will likely be an in-person meeting should the governor's executive orders not be extended again.
Great. We have a pending application from the town of Guilford, 45 Stonehouse Lane, map 33, lot 15, zone R3, request for 3-lot Rita subdivision, CAM, set public hearing date for 6/16/21.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, that's already set.
It's already
These are
set?
placeholders.
Okay, and then
No need to take that action.
same thing on James Kennefic. It's already set.
Correct.
Okay, so just for the record, it's 73 Water Street, map 32, lot 38, zone R3, special permit request per section 27319 accessory apartment. That's set for 6/16. New applications, anything?
No new receipts.
Other commission business, Benton's Knoll.
Yes, So this item is, I wanted to follow up. I did give you a, I apologize, a rather lengthy memo trying to recap our events over the last few months with Benton's Knoll with respect to the cease and desist order that was issued for noncompliance with their special permit conditions to have landscaping installed. I don't know if any of you have had an opportunity this afternoon to read through my memo. I can highlight that a little bit. I'm happy to read it to you, but in an effort to preserve some time. We had, in December, the commission discussed this matter with Russ Smith. I don't believe Russ is here, although I did share my memo with both Russ and the Comans, and I did see Debbie Coman was here as well, but I'm not sure if our developer is here or not. So basically, the commission, we had a notice of violation for not installing landscaping within a year of the approval of the special permit. That being said, then in December, Russ came before the commission and indicated that he was looking to modify the landscape plan and was struggling a little bit in getting a landscape firm to work on that with him. At that time, the commission did modify the corrective action order to allow an application or require an application for special permit modification be submitted by March 1st, 2021. I had and included in my meeting materials for you some correspondence from Russ Smith, January 28th, 2021, updating some of the status of his work on February, Janice Plasiak, Kevin McGee, and Sonia Marino and I met with Russ Smith to go through the status of some of his as-built surveys, some septic reviews, general checklist of outstanding items and things that staff wanted to see to help determine compliance with his permit approval. On March 1st, which was the deadline for the corrective order, Russ submitted another letter to the commission providing some further updates on his progress, some responses to staff concerns. I did attach his letters as well. Staff also requested that Russ have his engineers do a drainage analysis, stormwater analysis on the lots most directly affecting the Comans property, which are lots 5 and 6. Those are not yet developed. Per our request on March 15th, he did submit a drainage analysis for pre and post construction. And that was done by Civil One engineers. The results did indicate that the design post-development of this residential lot will prove a reduction in the stormwater flow towards the Comans property, which is beneficial. And staff did agree with that analysis. And then we kind of jumped to our April 7th meeting was the last time that the developer was here before you. At that time, Attorney Jim Strub indicated that my enforcement order should be lifted per governor's executive orders. Basically that his orders prevented the expiration of any permits during COVID-19. A letter wasn't available at the meeting, and at that point, the commission, you decided to table the matter pending a legal opinion from our land use counsel. Also, I wanted to include in my memo today, as there was not an opportunity for further discussion, the Comans were present at that meeting and did have a letter from their attorney, Maria Salato, submitted, and a proposed landscape plan that they recommended to the developer for modifying and adding additional screening towards lots 5 and 6. So that I did include in your meeting materials this evening. Follow up, so I did refer Attorney Stubbs' letter to Chuck Andres, our land use counsel, for to determine validity of his claim. Chuck determined that the claim was invalid as the enforcement order that was issued stated only that the condition of approval had not been satisfied, rather than stating that the special permit approval lapsed or expired. He did further explain that the order provides, the executive order provides the commission or the zoning enforcement officer the authority to waive conditions if an approval holder is not able to abide by the conditions as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic or protective measures taken in response to it, provided that such waiver shall not be unreasonably withheld. So if the applicant is able to demonstrate that the reason for delays were due to COVID-related conditions, the commission should not unreasonably withhold a waiver or an extension of a condition. So over the last month, Janice and I have reviewed all the approved plans, the submitted as-built from Russ Smith, the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Inland Wetland Commission permit conditions. We went through the bond and we went out through and itemized all outstanding improvements. Then we met with Russ Smith on May 10th last month to go through those item by item. I wanted to bring to your attention that the Planning and Zoning Commission no longer holds a surety for erosion controls or improvements to the site. Those were released by my predecessor. The engineering department, however, still holds a $125,000 bond, which is in excess of what is required to complete the final road-related improvements. Russ Smith has agreed to enter into a bond agreement with the commission to reallocate the excess funds to cover both the final road surface, any outstanding monuments, landscaping, remaining site and drainage improvements that are not completed.
Erin, what are the excess funds?
Essentially, we have, I think the cost of road work is somewhere around $45,000. So it's a significant amount of money in excess at this point.
So it is a stated amount. It is a set amount.
Yes, it is itemized and there is a cost breakdown for what is required left for the actual finishing of the road. There's an itemized cost for the cost of the stone monuments at particular corners of the property. So yes, we do have that. I do also have an itemized cost of landscaping as well. So it was determined that there is sufficient amount in excess that we would not, one, have to return any bond money, and we would not have to request additional funds to cover the remaining
Lots
improvements.
5 and 6 are still not sold. So do they put any erosion control in place to protect the adjoining landowners?
So, right, so none of, it's my understanding that there are pending contracts on some of the lots. Number 5, I did have confirmation from the developer that that is one. I don't believe there is a contract for lot 6 at this point, but yes, they all should have erosion controls if they are outstanding, if something is insufficient. At this point, those should be reinstalled, correct? Right now, there's still an enforcement order. There's no action, there's no activity happening on the site. But that is something that I can address, yes.
I have a question.
You have a question, okay.
So the $125,000, does that cover the final course, the wearing course, all those things? Are those done? Where is the
No, the
status?
the final course has to be done. All the stormwater is, the drainage system is in under the road. It's just the final course that is essentially what needs to be done on the road itself. There are some sightline improvements that have to be done according to their engineer to make sightlines on Colonial Road.
But they will only be done when 5 and 6, lots 5 and 6 are completely done. They won't do that until 5 and 6 are fully developed.
So there are more than just lots 5 and 6 that need to be developed. There are, I believe, 5 outstanding lots at this point. So the road the final paving of the road, I don't know when that will happen. So the actual, right now, the only bond that, or the only surety that the town holds is for road improvements. We have no surety. So as this permit, this approval is set to expire in 2024. Should this work never be completed, or the developer walk away, the town holds no bonds to complete any of the improvements for the residents living on that property, on the site, or any affected.
So do you feel that by bifurcating the bond, you're actually improving your position for making corrections in the future?
Yes. So in a sense, having the developer agree to reallocate and enter into a new bond agreement with the Planning and Zoning Commission to designate those excess funds to cover landscaping, any other remaining drainage or site improvements, there's our insurance at that point that the town would have the funds to complete this project should it not be done. In addition to that, we took it another step further, and Russ, as far as the landscaping, Russ has agreed that I would place zoning permit conditions on an individual lots to be developed. He has 2 or 3 that he's looking to pull building permits on. And those permits would be conditioned on the installation of any site plantings. So no CO would be given for any of the new units until any of the landscaping associated with that particular lot would be completed. I believe that the bond agreement and the zoning permit conditions provide reasonable assurance that outstanding improvements will be completed. In addition, I understand from both Russ and the Comans that there has been some communication between both parties regarding increased buffer plantings near lots 5 and 6. There was one initial plan that I did include that came from the Comans, had hired a landscape Madison Earth Care company to come up with a proposed plan. And just yesterday, I received another plan from Russ Smith that I understand his attorney has shared with the Comans as well. I encourage them to continue their conversations, to hopefully come to a mutually beneficial agreement with respect to screening, additional screening on lot 5 and 6. I wanted to make a recommendation based on our communications with the developer and in light of the bond agreements that I have a draft resolution for the commission to waive the condition number 5 of the special permit granted in 2019 through the authority granted in the governor's executive order 7JJ section 3. Due to some unforeseen delays caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically limited employees and companies because of social distancing. Unexpected increase in home improvement building industry during the pandemic has hindered the developer's ability to comply with the deadline in this condition. In lieu of completing the plantings by October 2020, the developer shall enter into a bond agreement with the Planning and Zoning Commission to guarantee the completion of any outstanding site improvements. All zoning permits for the development of the remaining lots shall be conditioned to include completion of individual lot plantings prior to the issuance of a certificate of zoning compliance. All remaining conditions of the original special permit shall remain in place, and the enforcement order shall be lifted by the zoning enforcement officer upon receipt of the signed bond agreement. So that's the direction that staff would be recommending to move forward if the commission feels that's appropriate. We're trying to balance completing a project in compliance with approved plans in a timely fashion while trying to be respectful of concerns of abutting property owners, and also trying to be sensitive of the current market that we have, and in a project where it's sat without any activity for a decade here. We do have an opportunity in this market to hopefully complete this project and put this behind everyone.
I'm happy you've got some bond money behind it, so that's great. And thank you for all your efforts on that.
Yeah, I just have one, and this goes back to the bonding. So Benton's LLC is all, Russ Smith probably has a dozen LLCs. This is one of his LLCs. If he decides to declare this LLC bankrupt, do we only have $45,000 from that bond agreement to cover all the road improvements?
So the bond agreement and the calculations of the values of improvements, that can be worked out as far as staff goes. And some of that I would defer to Janice as far as the costs of the road improvements. I can't speak to, typically banks with respect to an LLC, there's individuals who are tied to the LLCs. When I do new bond agreements here, any LLC is tied to what's the word I'm looking for? A principal member of the LLC, and their
personal
Social
guarantee
Security number, tax ID numbers. So I do think that, and the permits are issued towards Benton's Knoll LLC. So that is who the bond agreement would be with. I guess we've had situations where something this is through a bank, and we've had instances where developers have gone belly up and the town has pulled the bond, and it's still, the surety is still valid through the bank. You don't need the developer's permission. I mean, there's an action taken by the commission, but the town has the right to pull that bond.
I think to Sean's point, though, you have to make sure that the numbers pencil out for the road work versus the site work versus the monuments versus the cleaning out the catch basins at the end and all that, and the curbing.
My point is only that he may just the end of his tethers and just decide, and if he's got an exit route, and I just want to be sure we've got our bases covered as far as improvements that he guaranteed, but is not going to cover unless the bond covers it. That's all I'm saying.
Right. So I am confident that the original bond was through engineering was for $250,000, and it had been reduced to $125,000. So a amount of the road work has been completed. The cost of the cost of the monuments is not really high. And the final course of pavement, it was roughly $40,000. And so. Yes.
Some things that like Sean, I think is alluding to is that you don't know in the background if the person who's going to do the final as-built and, set the monuments is even willing to go there because of whatever, in other words, it's not always easy to say what's going on in the background with who's been paid and who's not and who's still working. And I think that was some of the issues that bubbled up before with getting the as-built of the road and all those things. And as you pointed out, it's 10 years down the road. So who knows? I just want to make sure that if you had to hire anybody to do the work, not just the person who has the control at this point, that they haven't, that there's enough funding there to cover the paver and the surveyor and all those things. And I don't know, there was a stone wall that was, I can't even remember what was up with the stone wall, but just make sure that we have enough
itemized,
but also we're not in a position of strength particularly either, right?
I would just point out that.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I missed that. I'm sorry.
There are lots of indications that the cost of materials in every aspect of manufacturing and building are going up. So, there are some factors in play here that could make a developer say,
yeah, but I mean,
all right. I just have one more question though. I think that what Aaron's trying to do is be able to split the pot a little so that you can at least address two different things. With right now, it can only address one. Is that correct?
Correct. We have no planning and zoning bond.
Right. So I think she's correct. I just want to make sure that wherever you split it, it makes sense as much as you can.
Right.
Understood.
Okay.
Anything else on that one? Or are we good, Aaron?
I got just one thing, and my second hat is with Public Works.
It's a private road.
Oh, that's going to remain private, but not be taken over by the town because it's a PRD?
It is a private road.
Okay.
So it's all on them.
I have to say, your writing this week has been prolific.
I'm sorry. I just wanted
missed your calling. You should have been an attorney.
I had a chance to review the minutes and they appear to be I hate to move this forward.
Oh, I'm sorry. That would require a motion.
Are we able to comment at all? This is Debbie Coleman. I'm sorry. Are we able to comment at this point? I understand it's late, but this has, been a long process for us as well.
If you promise to be brief and concise.
Do I get Marjorie's time?
No.
So I think I don't know where to start, honestly, with this. I can appreciate the bond. I can appreciate the certificate of occupancy, but we've heard this story before. Hope isn't a strategy. We can't hope Russ is going to sell these houses. We've had, now 2 months ago, you said we didn't have water issues. Now you're confirming we do have water issues that will only be resolved when he builds a house. You're now you put a violation in on him that he had to have plants in by a certain date that was a condition of approval. And I think our main concern is you're alleviating him of that approval at this point. And he can blame COVID last year, but let's be honest, his violation, that came up in October. He didn't even come to anybody and say, hey, look, guys, gosh, I'm sorry, I can't get these planning and it's been a rough year. He would have just let it pass. That's his history. It's 12 years. Like, when is the town going to take a stance on that? Wow. How can you remove a time limitation on something you put? Again, the bond is great. The certificate of occupancy is great. He says he thinks he's got a contract. I heard that in 2009 when he had 7 reservations. Go back and read Senator Meyer's letter in 2012. It's the same story, and we're in 2021. We're only asking for what he said he was going to give us in 2009. Grigsby said we had a bond on plants. If you go back and look at the minutes, come to find out we never had one.
I'm sorry, Debbie, there was a bond and it was released.
but we don't get anything that he promised to deliver to the town and be such a good neighbor and preserve open space. Like, we want it done too, but like, we're a paying taxpayer as well. Like, where does our payoff come in? Where this developer, he's just destroyed every hurricane that comes through. We had another tree drop down. We have increased water flow. We have no privacy here anymore. We've got a commuter lot behind us, basically. So when do we get some blockage?
When would the bond potentially be tapped, Aaron?
You mean, so that's, the developer has the life of, from the date of approval, it's a 14-year approval date. It is per statutes. And that was during the recession that the state extended the length of all of these permits. So this particular one, that was 2010, so that it expires in 2024.
But when do the Comans get some relief from the water that apparently is going onto their property?
So the question was, and that's a question that Janice had raised to the developer, was, has any of the disturbance on this, as part of the original analysis of this development, they did existing conditions, water flow towards their property. So the second came back and said, yes, there is, the way it is currently, the way it will be developed will reduce that because of the stormwater infiltration system and the grading on the site. So that will not happen until, nothing will happen while there's a cease and desist order on the property. So those changes in grades will come with the development of that lot.
But why is the excused of the plantings? Why does that condition go away that you put in 2019? Because so he can't put plants in, but he can build a house?
The plantings come with the individual.
They do now. They did
plantings.
it in 2018.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
They seem to come with a condition of the house, but in 2019, when you granted him his 4 bedrooms and pools and whatever else he wants to do back there, you also said you have to put landscaping in within a year. It didn't say put them in with the houses. It was put in the plants. And now all of a sudden the plants can't go in until the houses go in.
Whatever that is.
It's a long road, we're on with this. And again, I can appreciate some of the progress, but all the things you guys just brought up before about what if he doesn't finish this project, where does that leave us now? Like, that's our concern as well. And you're bringing up the same concerns for a different reason. You want a road paved. Well, I want some, I don't want to see, this dump pile behind me. I don't want to, look at what I look at, a construction site on an ongoing basis.
Right. So, I mean, as far as the continuation and the completion of the project, I mean, as the cease and desist order stands, nothing will change. I understand that the goal at some point is to build 5 houses, that it's going to have, at some point we're going to have to allow them to begin construction again. I do, from a staff and enforcement side, I do feel a lot more comfortable having a bond in place should an event happen where a developer doesn't complete a project. We run that risk anywhere a site plan approval or any permit that has an expiration could come into effect. At this point, if the project went belly up and the contractor or the developer walked, we have enough money to fix the road, and we have nothing else. The town cannot pull that bond and hire the appropriate people to complete the landscaping, to complete the drainage requirements, to grade out the sites, whether they're developed as a house or not. So in one sense, we are putting ourselves at an advantage by doing this. I understand, this past year has been exceptional with respect to many things. I don't know, the commission does have, we have to understand a way to try to balance moving forward with this project while still trying to maintain control of the development itself and adhering to the conditions. I don't, I'm.
Someone asleep?
Yeah, someone's asleep, yeah.
Is that snoring?
Yeah, that's snoring.
Sorry to bore you.
Let me fast track this. Aaron, do you need to make a motion to approve the splitting of the bond or something to that effect?
I voted a motion, or excuse me, I drafted a motion if the commission is comfortable lifting that order or the condition of the 2019 special permit, under the authority provided in the executive orders. That's something that that Debbie was speaking to, and that I think the commission should weigh, and if you are comfortable in that, or if you have another
Frankly,
suggestion,
I think
entertain.
if you could forward your memo on, we will address it first thing on or we will address it at our next meeting, if that's all right.
I did. I can share you do you want the actual?
I really would need a little more time to review it as opposed to just scanning it on the screen.
What's that?
I just need a little more time to review it as opposed to just taking it on right now.
Okay.
All right. Is that okay with everyone?
Unless there's a urgency that I don't know about, is there any reason that it's more urgent than the next meeting?
It's been outstanding from April, so that's why I brought it.
And without doing this, he can't continue to do his work. Is that what you're saying? We would also be lifting the cease and
Correct.
desist?
The order will stand until the commission.
Is he coming to you and asking you for permits right now?
What's that?
Is he coming and asking to do the work?
Yes, he wants to pull permits
All right,
for the
then
property.
in that case, I think we should proceed forward. And what is your motion, or can you give it to someone?
I got it here.
Aaron, it's at the end of your letter, end of your memo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
Well, she already read it.
All right. Oh, she did read.
Yeah.
Do we have to read it again?
Yes.
I think Aaron read it.
I did read it to you.
But she's not a commission member.
Right.
Okay. So vote the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission waive condition number 5 of the 2019 special permit granted to Benton's Knoll LLC on October 19th, 2021 through the authority granted in Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7JJ Section 3 due to unforeseen delays caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Limited employees and companies because of social distancing and unexpected home improvement building industry has hindered the developer's ability to comply with the deadline of this condition. In lieu of completing the plannings by October 20, the developer shall enter into a bond agreement with the Planning and Zoning Commission to guarantee the completion of any outstanding site improvements. All zoning permits for the development of the remaining lots shall be conditioned to include completion of individual lot plannings prior to the issuance of a certificate of zoning compliance. All remaining conditions of the original zoning permit shall remain in place. The enforcement order shall be lifted by the zoning enforcement officer upon receipt of the signed bond agreement.
Someone want to second that?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I'll call the vote.
I'm sorry, Phil. I mean, Aaron, has there been a discussion with the developer to just enact the planting plan that the Comans have put forth with Madison Earth Care? I mean, is it that prohibitively expensive that we can't try to put it into this agreement?
Great
I think
question.
that's not part, the Planning and Zoning Commission has an approved landscape plan for the development. I think there have been, there's a history, there had been additional plantings, a berm added at one point prior to my involvement in this project. I think that's something that I think that's
Doesn't
something
it
that
come
I
back
would
to the
recommend.
town, like, doesn't
would
it come back
be-
to the town? You put a condition on his approval that he had to put plants in 2019, and now all of a sudden that just disappears. I think that's what I'm not understanding is in 2019, you said you've got to put plants in. Now all of a sudden he just doesn't have to do it because of COVID?
As part of this, he should put some in now.
Like, why can't he put some plants in? I just don't understand how that's just totally alleviated for him now. I don't like, he can't put any in the trees that he put in. We had to get a senator involved to get them put in. Don't make it, he didn't do us a favor.
We can discuss this at the next meeting.
Thank you. Please, give me a break.
I mean, this isn't an easy case. I'm sorry. I know it's late. I understand, but you know, this is our life.
I realize that, but
Great,
Aaron,
he
wasn't
wants to sell
one of the
houses, but I've heard that before.
this is not participation by the public.
Aaron, wasn't one of the conditions that you put into this, what we were debating to vote on here, was that if they want to CO an individual house, then they have to complete the landscaping for that lot, correct?
Correct.
So you're trying to make it even more enforceable that plantings, at least for that lot, will definitely go in if he wants to actually sell the house that he's building.
Correct.
And then
Are those different than the thing that came from Madison?
That was a suggestion from the Comans that
I'm sure what the agreement is based off of what was originally agreed.
It is. It wasn't much different. It's pretty much what he said he was going to do, quite honestly.
So I think,
and that's something I would encourage them to communicate with each other and come to a mutual agreement. I don't think that has to be, you know, if additional landscaping is added behind.
It's not
either
additional,
lots,
it's what he said he was going to do.
Debbie.
Right.
That's at the agreement of the two parties. I've heard from both Russ and his attorney that they have every intention of working with the Comans to provide adequate buffer on those lots. But going beyond what was approved by the commission and at this point requiring additional landscaping at the suggestion of an abutting property owner, I don't necessarily think that's the best way to go.
right. And then the other half of what we're voting on is in the event that he backs out completely, doesn't build houses, his expiration you said was 2024. Right. And so by doing this and creating this whole bond scenario, we are ensuring people have the ability to complete some amount of landscaping to alleviate problems. Whereas if we do not vote for this tonight, we have no money, no bond money and availability in order to complete landscaping. We can only complete the road. Correct?
Correct.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second on it?
I did.
Thank you. We'll call the vote. Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank DeAndrea,
Aye.
Jamie Stein,
Yes.
Richard Wallace,
Yes.
Scott Edmund,
Yes.
Alan Brown.
Yes.
I thought that was you snoozing. And I also will vote yes.
I'm pretty sure it's Susan Moore, whoever that is.
I did have a chance to review the minutes and they appear to be substantially correct. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes from our last?
Move.
Second.
The show of hands, all in favor? Thank you. Let the
I abstain. I wasn't here.
other than Richard, it was a unanimous consent. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn? And
make a motion.
I definitely don't want to adjourn.
Thank you, everyone.
Hold all nighter.
Wow.
My kid's been crying in the background for the last hour, so.
Oh, no.
A fun one, wasn't it? To be continued. Even better.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
You.